When Michael Jordan stood at his father's grave with his 12-year-old son Isaiah, his hands were shaking. Not from the cold November morning, but from something much deeper. Something he'd been hiding for 20 years. The greatest basketball player in the world, the man who never seemed afraid of anything, was terrified. In his pocket, he carried a sealed letter. A letter his father James had written before he died in 1993. A letter with strict instructions written on the envelope. Do not open until your son turns 13. Isaiah watched his father place an old, worn basketball at the gravestone. The same basketball James Jordan had given young Michael back in 1978. I made him a promise, Michael whispered, his voice cracking. Oh, and I've been too afraid to keep it. Isaiah asked the question that would change everything. What promise, Dad? But Michael couldn't answer. He just knelt at the grave and whispered something Isaiah couldn't hear. What was in that letter? What promise had Michael made to his dying father 20 years ago? And why was he bringing Isaiah here today, exactly 2 months before his 13th birthday? The answer would teach them both the most powerful lesson about love, loss, and what it really means to be a man. A lesson that started with a murdered father, continued through 6 NBA championships, and would end with a truth so emotional it would change their family forever. Stay with us to discover what James Jordan's final words were, and why Michael Jordan, the toughest competitor in sports history, broke down crying when he finally opened that letter. This is a story about fathers and sons, about the weight of perfection, and about a promise that took 13 years to keep. What you're about to hear will change how you think about Michael Jordan forever. Because the real championship wasn't won on a basketball court. It was won at a cemetery on a 13-year-old boy's birthday, when a father finally learned what his own father had been trying to teach him all along. Watch until the end to find out what that letter said, and why it made Michael Jordan realize he'd been living his entire life the wrong way. The morning air was cold and sharp. Michael Jordan stood in front of a simple gray headstone, his breath coming out in small white clouds, and his hands were deep in his coat pockets. Next to him, his 12-year-old son Isaiah shifted his weight from foot to foot, trying to stay warm. Isaiah had never seen his father like this before. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player in the world, the man who never seemed afraid of anything, was shaking. Not from the cold, from something else, something deeper. Dad? Isaiah said quietly. Are you okay? Michael didn't answer right away. He just stared at the stone. Isaiah read the words carved into it, even though he'd seen them before. James Raymond Jordan, July 31st, 1936, to August 13th, 1993. Beloved father, husband, friend. Isaiah knew this was his grandfather. He knew the basic facts. James Jordan had been murdered when Isaiah was only 2 years old. He had no real memories of the man, just photos, just stories other people told. But standing here now, watching his father's hands tremble, Isaiah understood something new. This wasn't just history. This was still happening. His father was still hurting. Michael finally moved. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a basketball. Not a new one, an old one. The leather was worn and faded, covered in scratches and scuff marks. It looked like it had been used 1,000 times. Isaiah's eyes widened. Is that? It was his, Michael said softly. His voice sounded different, smaller. My father gave this to me when I was 13, right before I started high school. Michael knelt down slowly, his knees cracking slightly. He placed the basketball gently at the base of the headstone, like he was setting down something precious and fragile. Isaiah watched, not sure what to say. He'd seen his father win championships. So he'd seen him give speeches to thousands of people. He'd seen him laugh and joke and move through the world with total confidence. But this was different. "Your grandfather would have loved to meet you properly," Michael said, still kneeling. His voice cracked on the word loved. "I mean, he met you when you were a baby, held you in the hospital. But he would have loved to really know you, to watch you grow up, to teach you things." Isaiah felt his throat get tight. "I wish I remembered him." "I know." Michael reached out and touched the cold stone with his fingertips. "I wish you did too." The cemetery was quiet, except for the wind moving through the trees. A few dead leaves skittered across the grass. In the distance, Isaiah could see other families visiting graves, but they seemed far away. This moment felt private, sacred. "I made him a promise, Isaiah." The words came out so quietly that Isaiah almost didn't hear them. "What?" Isaiah stepped closer. Michael's hand was still on the gravestone. His fingers traced the carved letters of his father's name. "I made him a promise, right before he died, and I've been too afraid to keep it." Isaiah's heart started beating faster. "What promise, Dad?" Michael looked up at him. His eyes were wet with tears that hadn't fallen yet. Isaiah had never seen his father cry. Not once. Not ever. Michael started, then stopped. He shook his head and looked back at the stone. "I can't. Not yet. I'm not ready." "Dad, you're scaring me." Isaiah's voice came out shaky. Michael stood up, brushing the dirt from his knees. He put his hands on Isaiah's shoulders and looked right at him. "I'm not trying to scare you, son. I'm trying to be brave enough to do something I should have done a long time ago." "What does that mean?" Michael took a deep breath. He looked back at the grave, then at Isaiah again. "It means I need to tell you something. Something important. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Isaiah nodded, even though he didn't understand. "Good." Michael pulled him into a hug. A real one. Not a quick pat on the back, but a long, tight hug. Isaiah felt his father's heart beating fast against his chest. When Michael finally let go, he knelt back down at the grave. He leaned in close to the headstone and whispered something. Isaiah tried to hear, but the words were too quiet, too private. After a moment, Michael stood up again. He wiped his eyes quickly with the back of his hand. "Why did you bring me here today?" Dad?" Isaiah asked. "Why now?" Michael looked at him for a long time before answering. "Because you're 12, almost 13. And that means it's time." "Time for what?" "You'll see." Michael put his arm around Isaiah's shoulders. "Soon, I promise. But first, I needed to come here. I needed to tell my father that I'm finally ready. That I'm finally going to keep the promise I made to him 20 years ago." Isaiah looked down at the basketball sitting at the grave. "Does it have something to do with that?" "Everything has something to do with that," Michael said quietly. "That basketball represents more than you know. More than I've ever told you." They stood there for another minute in silence. Isaiah wanted to ask more questions, but something told him not to. Something told him his father needed this quiet moment. Finally, Michael squeezed Isaiah's shoulder. "Come on, let's go. Your grandmother's waiting for us." They started walking back toward the car. Isaiah looked over his shoulder one more time at the grave, at the old basketball resting there like an offering. "Dad," he said as they reached the parking lot. "Yeah?" "Whatever the promise is, I think Grandpa would want you to keep it." Michael stopped walking. He turned and looked at Isaiah with an expression that was half sadness, half something else, something like pride. "You know what? You're right. He opened the car door for Isaiah. And I'm going to. On your 13th birthday, 2 months from now, I'm going to keep the promise. And you're going to help me. Me? How? Michael got into the driver's seat and started the car. He looked at Isaiah in the rearview mirror, or you'll understand when the time comes. I promise. As they pulled away from the cemetery, Isaiah pressed his face against the window. He watched the grave disappear behind them, watched the old basketball get smaller and smaller until it was just a dark spot against the gray stone. What promise had his father made? Why was he so afraid to keep it? And what did it have to do with Isaiah's 13th birthday? The questions buzzed in Isaiah's head like bees. He didn't know it yet, but those questions would change everything. They would help him understand his father in a way he never had before. They would connect him to a grandfather he never really knew. And they would teach him that the strongest people aren't the ones who never cry. They're the ones who are brave enough to cry in front of the people they love. See, Isaiah Jordan didn't understand death. He knew what it meant, of course. He wasn't stupid. He knew that when people died, they didn't come back. He knew it made people sad. He'd learned about it in school, seen it in movies, heard adults talk about it in hushed voices. But he didn't understand it. Not really. Not in the way that made it feel real. When he was 7 years old, his second-grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had given the class an assignment. Interview your grandparents, she'd said with a bright smile. Ask them about what life was like when they were young. Write down their stories. We're going to make a class book called Voices from the Past. Isaiah had gone home excited. He'd grabbed his notebook and his favorite pencil, the one shaped like a basketball, and run to find his mother. Mom, I need to interview my grandparents for school. His mother, Carmen, had been folding laundry in the living room. She'd looked up at him, and her smile had faded just a little. Okay, baby. Well, you can call Grandma Dolores tomorrow. She'll love that. What about Grandpa James? Isaiah had asked. Carmen had set down the shirt she was folding. She'd walked over and knelt in front of him, her hands on his shoulders. Remember, sweetie, Grandpa James is in heaven. He passed away before you were old enough to remember him. Isaiah had felt frustrated. But other kids have grandpas. Why don't I? You have Grandpa James, Carmen had said gently. He's just not here anymore, but he loved you very much. Isaiah had stomped his foot. That's not fair. How am I supposed to interview someone who's dead? The word had come out angry, harsh. Carmen's eyes had gotten wet, and she'd pulled him into a hug. I know, baby. I know it's not fair. The next day at school, Isaiah had been the only kid who turned in an incomplete assignment. While other children read stories about their grandparents' childhoods, about old cars and black and white TVs and penny candy, Isaiah had sat quietly at his desk. He hadn't been sad. He'd been embarrassed. And maybe a little bit angry. Why did his grandfather have to die? Why couldn't he be like other kids' grandparents, alive, telling stories, eating Sunday dinner with the family? It had felt unfair, but it hadn't felt real. Isaiah was 9 when he'd first seen his father leave a room because of his grandfather. They'd been watching old Chicago Bulls games together, something they did on rainy Saturdays. Michael would make popcorn, and they'd sit on the couch, and Michael would explain the plays, teach Isaiah about basketball strategy. See that? Michael had said, pointing at the TV. That's called a pick and roll. Watch how Scotty sets the screen. Then the camera had cut to the crowd, just for a second. And there, in the front row, wearing a Bulls jersey and clapping his hands, was James Jordan. Michael had gone completely still. Isaiah had noticed. Dad, Is that? But Michael was already standing up. I need to check on something in the kitchen, he'd said quickly. Too quickly. He'd walked out of the room, and Isaiah had heard the kitchen door close. Then, very faintly, he'd heard something else. A sound he couldn't quite identify. Carmen had appeared from upstairs. She'd looked at the TV, seen James Jordan's face frozen on the screen, but had understood immediately. Isaiah, honey, why don't you go play outside for a little bit? But we were watching. Please, baby. Isaiah had gone outside, confused. Through the kitchen window, he'd seen his parents standing together. His mother's arms around his father's shoulders, his father's head down. Later, Carmen had explained, "Your daddy misses his father very much. Sometimes seeing him in old videos is hard. It reminds him of what he lost." Isaiah had nodded like he understood. But he hadn't. Not really. Why would watching happy memories make someone sad? Shouldn't happy memories make you happy? By the time Isaiah was 10, he'd started to feel something else about his missing grandfather. Something he didn't like admitting, even to himself. Jealousy. His best friend Marcus had a grandfather who came to every single one of his basketball games. The old man would sit in the stands, cheering louder than anyone else, waving a homemade sign with Marcus's name on it. After games, Marcus's grandfather would take them out for burgers. He'd tell funny stories and do magic tricks with quarters and ruffle their hair. Isaiah's father came to all his games too, of course. Michael Jordan never missed a single one. But it wasn't the same. Michael coached, gave technical feedback, explained what Isaiah had done wrong and how to improve. He never just watched, never just cheered without analysis. One day after a game they'd lost badly, Isaiah had been sitting in the car feeling terrible. Michael had been quiet, driving, probably thinking about all the mistakes Isaiah had made. Finally, Isaiah had said, "I wish Grandpa James was alive." Michael had looked at him in the rearview mirror. Why? Because Marcus's grandpa just tells him, "Good job," even when he plays bad. "You always tell me what I did wrong." Michael had pulled the car over, right there on the side of the road. He'd turned around in his seat and looked at Isaiah with an expression Isaiah couldn't read. "Is that what you think? That I only care about your mistakes?" Isaiah had shrugged, looking down at his hands. "Isaiah, I tell you those things because I want you to be great. Because I see your potential. My father did the same thing for me. But Marcus says his grandpa just loves him no matter what. And I don't?" Michael's voice had gotten quiet. Isaiah hadn't answered. He'd just picked at a loose thread on his jersey. See, Michael had sat there for a long moment. Then he'd said, "Your grandfather would have loved you exactly the way I do. By pushing you to be your best. That's what love looks like in our family." Isaiah had nodded. But inside, he'd wondered if maybe that wasn't the only way love could look. The worst moment had come when Isaiah was 11. His school had hosted a Grandparents' Day assembly. Kids were supposed to bring their grandparents to school, show them around, introduce them to teachers, eat lunch together in the cafeteria. Isaiah had brought Grandma Dolores, of course. She'd been wonderful, kind and warm and proud. She'd hugged all his teachers and looked at all his artwork on the classroom walls. But during lunch, Isaiah had looked around the cafeteria and seen something that made his chest hurt. And Marcus was sitting with both his grandparents. So was Sarah Chen and Devin Williams, and most of the other kids. 2 grandparents, one from each side of the family. Isaiah only had one. "Grandma," he'd said quietly, "did Grandpa James like kids?" Dolores had set down her sandwich. Her eyes had gotten soft. "Oh, baby, Your grandfather loved children more than anything in the world. He would have spoiled you rotten. Then why did he have to die?" The question had burst out before Isaiah could stop it. "It's not fair. Everyone else has grandpas. Why don't I?" Dolores had reached across the table and taken his hand. "I don't know why, sweetheart. I've asked that question myself 1,000 times. All I know is that he loved you. In the short time he had with you, he loved you so much." "But I don't remember." Isaiah's voice had gotten louder. "I don't remember anything about him. It's like he never existed." Other families had turned to look. Isaiah had felt his face get hot with embarrassment and anger, and something else he couldn't name. Dolores had stood up and moved to his side of the table. She'd wrapped her arms around him right there in the cafeteria. "He existed, Isaiah. He was real. And he's still here in every good thing your father does. Every time your daddy teaches you something, every time he works hard, every time he shows you how to be a good man. That's your grandfather. That's James Jordan, living on through his son." Isaiah had wanted to believe her, but it was hard to find comfort in a ghost. Now, sitting in the car after visiting the cemetery, Isaiah thought about all those moments, all those times he'd been confused or angry or embarrassed about his grandfather's death. He thought about his father's shaking hands at the grave, the tears in his eyes, the basketball left like an offering. And for the first time, Isaiah began to understand something important. Death wasn't just about the person who died. It was about everyone left behind. It was about his father still carrying grief 20 years later. It was about his grandmother planting tomatoes with tears on her cheeks. It was about empty spaces at family dinners and grandparents' days and old videotapes that had to be turned off. "Dad?" Isaiah said from the back seat. Michael looked at him in the mirror. "Yeah, son? I'm sorry I didn't understand before. About Grandpa James." Michael's eyebrows rose slightly. What do you mean?" I thought death was just something that happened a long time ago. I didn't know it was still happening. I didn't know you still missed him every day." Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Thank you for saying that, Isaiah. That means more than you know." They drove in silence for a few more minutes. Then Michael said something Isaiah had never heard him say before. "I'm not sure I understand it either, son, even after all these years. I'm not sure any of us ever really understand death. We just learn to live with it." Isaiah looked out the window at the houses passing by, at families in their yards, at kids playing basketball in driveways, at the normal world that kept spinning even though people died, and fathers cried, and grandfathers became ghosts. And he didn't fully understand yet. But he was starting to. And in 2 months, on his 13th birthday, when his father kept whatever promise he'd made at that grave, Isaiah would understand even more. 3 months before the cemetery visit, Isaiah had spent 2 weeks of summer vacation at his grandmother's house in North Carolina. He hadn't wanted to go. "Mom, I'm 12, he'd complained, dragging his suitcase to the car. "I don't need a babysitter. I can stay home by myself." Carmen had smiled and kissed his forehead. "Nobody said you need a babysitter, baby. Grandma Dolores just wants to spend time with you. She misses you. Can't she come visit us instead?" "Isaiah." His mother's voice had gotten that tone, the one that meant the discussion was over. 2 weeks. It'll be good for you. Fresh air, no video games all day, real food instead of takeout." So Isaiah had gone, sulking in the back seat for the entire 3-hour drive. Grandma Dolores lived in a small brick house with a big backyard. The house smelled like cinnamon and old books. Everything was neat and clean, with family photos covering every wall and surface. Isaiah's face appeared in dozens of them. Baby pictures, school photos, snapshots at birthday parties. But there were even more photos of his father. Michael at every age. Michael holding basketballs. Michael in his Bulls jersey. Michael shaking hands with presidents. And in many of those photos, standing beside Michael or sitting in the crowd or grinning at the camera, was James Jordan. Isaiah had walked through the house that first day, really looking at the pictures for the first time. His grandfather had been a normal-looking man, an average height, kind eyes, a warm smile. He wore regular clothes, polo shirts and jeans, sometimes a baseball cap. He didn't look like someone who would change the world. He just looked like a dad. He was handsome, wasn't he? Isaiah had jumped. Grandma Dolores had appeared behind him, quiet as a cat. "I guess so," Isaiah had said. "You have his chin?" She'd reached out and gently touched Isaiah's face. "And his ears. See?" She'd pointed to a photo of James from the 1970s. Same exact ears. Isaiah had looked closer. She was right. The resemblance was there. Subtle, but real. "Do I look like him other ways?" Isaiah had asked. "You look like your father. Who looked like him? It's all connected, baby. We're all connected." The first week had been boring. Grandma Dolores didn't have cable TV or the latest gaming systems. She didn't believe in kids spending all day on phones. Instead, she'd given Isaiah a list of chores: sweeping the porch, organizing the garage, helping with yard work. "Child labor," Isaiah had muttered, pulling weeds in the hot sun. "Character building," Grandma Dolores had called back from the porch, sipping her iced tea. But on the 8th day, everything changed. Isaiah had been in the backyard, headphones in, barely paying attention as he helped his grandmother in her vegetable garden. She'd been talking about tomatoes, which ones to plant, how to stake them properly, when to harvest them. Isaiah had nodded along, not really listening. He was scrolling through his phone with one hand, pulling weeds with the other. "Your grandfather had the best hands," Grandma Dolores had said suddenly. Isaiah had looked up. "What?" "James, not your grandfather. He had the best hands." She'd been kneeling in the dirt, holding a tomato seedling. Her voice had sounded far away, distant. "Not just for fixing cars. That was his job, you know. He was a mechanic, could fix anything. But he also had hands for growing life." She'd paused, staring at the small plant in her palms. "He planted this same kind of tomato every summer. Beefsteak tomatoes. Said they were the best for sandwiches. He'd come out here every morning before work, check on his plants, talk to them." She'd smiled softly. "I used to tease him about it, talking to vegetables like they were people." Isaiah had put his phone down. Something in his grandmother's voice had caught his attention. "He'd bring your father out here too, when Michael was little. Teach him about patience, about nurturing things, about how the best things in life take time to grow." Grandma Dolores had looked up at Isaiah then. "Your father learned a lot in this garden, more than just plants." "Like what?" Isaiah had asked. "Like how to be gentle, how to care for something fragile, how to wait for results instead of demanding them immediately." She'd carefully placed the seedling in the hole she'd dug. "Your grandfather wasn't a famous man, Isaiah. Didn't make a lot of money. Never had his picture in magazines. But he knew things, important things." Isaiah had watched her pat the dirt around the plant, her movements slow and careful. Then he'd seen it. A tear sliding down her cheek. She'd tried to wipe it away quickly, but Isaiah had already noticed. Then another tear had fallen, and another. "Grandma?" Isaiah's voice had come out small. "I'm okay, baby." But her hands were shaking now. The strong, steady grandmother who always had everything together, she was falling apart right in front of him. "I miss him," she'd whispered, her voice breaking. "I miss him every single day. Some mornings I wake up and forget for just a second that he's gone. Then I remember, and it's like losing him all over again." Isaiah had frozen. He'd never seen an adult in his family cry like this. Not really cry. His grandmother, the woman who held everyone else together, who was always strong, always smiling, was breaking down in the middle of her garden. 32 years we were married," she'd continued, tears flowing freely now. 32 years. And I still reach for him in the middle of the night. Still cook too much food because I forget he's not here to eat it. Would still buy his favorite cereal at the store. She'd covered her face with her dirt-stained hands. Isaiah hadn't known what to do. He'd knelt down beside her, awkward and uncertain. Finally, he'd put his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, Grandma." "No, baby. It's not okay. It's never been okay." She'd looked at him with red eyes. "And your father? Your father carries it differently. He carries it alone. He won't talk about it, won't cry where anyone can see. He just locks it inside and pretends he's fine." "Why?" Isaiah had asked. "Because that's what he thinks strong men do. Because he's been Michael Jordan for so long, the champion, the hero, that he's forgotten how to just be Michael. Just be my son. Just be a man who misses his father." She'd taken Isaiah's hand then, squeezing it tight. "He needs you, Isaiah. And your father needs you to understand what he lost. Because until you understand, he'll never be able to share it with you. And that weight is too heavy to carry alone." Isaiah's throat had felt tight. "I don't know how to help him." "Yes, you do. You just have to let him be human. Let him be sad. Let him be something other than perfect." Grandma Dolores had wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Can you do that?" Isaiah had nodded slowly. They'd sat there in the garden for a long time, not speaking. The sun had moved across the sky. Birds had chirped in the trees. And Isaiah had felt something shift inside him. A door opening to a room he hadn't known existed. That evening, after dinner, Grandma Dolores had led Isaiah to her bedroom. She'd opened her closet and pulled out a shoebox from the top shelf. The box was old. He held together with tape, covered in dust. "What's that?" Isaiah had asked. "Letters." She'd set the box on the bed. "Your grandfather wrote to your father throughout his basketball career. Every important moment, James would write a letter. Not phone calls, not visits. Letters. He said words on paper lasted forever." She'd lifted the lid. Inside were dozens of envelopes, some yellowed with age, all addressed to Michael Jordan in neat handwriting. "Your father keeps most of them in his office, but I have some here too. Copies James made before sending them." She'd pulled out a handful. "Maybe you should read these, Isaiah. Maybe then you'll understand why your father brought you to that grave." "Does Dad know you have these?" "He knows." Grandma Dolores had smiled sadly. "I asked him if I could show them to you. He said it was time." She'd placed the shoebox in Isaiah's hands. "Take your time. Read them tonight. And if you have questions, I'm right down the hall." Then she'd left, closing the door softly behind her. Isaiah had sat on the guest bed, the box in his lap, suddenly nervous. These were private letters. Words between a father and son. Was he supposed to read them? But Grandma Dolores had said it was time, and his father had agreed. So Isaiah had opened the first envelope, carefully unfolding the letter inside, and begun to read words written decades before he was born. Words that would change everything he thought he knew about his father, his grandfather, and what it meant to be a man in their family. The first line read, "Michael, my son, I watched you play today. Oh, and I saw something that scared me." Isaiah had leaned back against the pillows and kept reading, not knowing that by the end of the night, he would finally begin to understand the weight his father had been carrying all these years. The weight of a promise made to a dying father. The weight of trying to be perfect when all you really needed was to be present. The weight of love so deep it felt like grief, even when it was meant to feel like joy. Isaiah sat cross-legged on the guest bed, the shoebox beside him, letters spread across the comforter like pieces of a puzzle. The paper felt fragile in his hands. Some letters were written on lined notebook paper, others on fancy stationery, a few on letterhead from hotels where his grandfather must have stayed while traveling to watch Michael play. The handwriting was consistent, slightly messy but readable, slanting to the right, with occasional words underlined for emphasis. Isaiah picked up the oldest letter he could find. The postmark read, June 1985. His father would have been 22 years old, just drafted by the Chicago Bulls. He began to read. June 15th, 1985. Michael, my son, I watched you get drafted on TV today. 3rd pick overall. Your mother cried. I won't lie, I had tears in my eyes too. But I'm not writing to congratulate you on making it to the NBA. You know I'm proud. I've told you 1,000 times. I'm writing because I'm worried. Tonight, after the draft, I saw something in your eyes during the interviews. A hunger that goes beyond basketball. You want to be the best. I understand that. I raised you to aim high, to never settle for good enough. But son, I need you to remember something important. The trophy doesn't make the man. The man makes the trophy mean something. I've known plenty of talented people who became terrible human beings. Fame does that sometimes. It makes you forget where you came from. It makes you think you're special because of what you can do, not because of who you are. Promise me you won't let that happen. Promise me that no matter how famous you get, no matter how many people chant your name, you'll remember you're still just Michael, still my son, still the boy who used to help me fix cars in the garage and complain about getting grease under his fingernails. Talent is a gift. Character is a choice. Choose character, son, every single day. Love, Dad. Isaiah set the letter down carefully. His hands were shaking slightly, and he'd never thought about his father as young before, as uncertain, as someone who needed advice and guidance. Michael Jordan had always been Michael Jordan, complete, finished, perfect. But this letter showed someone different, someone who was just starting out, someone whose father was worried about him losing himself. Isaiah picked up another letter. This one was dated March 1991. March 30th, 1991. Michael, congratulations on your first championship. I knew this day would come. Your mother and I were screaming at the TV like fools. But I'm going to tell you something you might not want to hear right now, while you're celebrating. The trophy doesn't matter as much as you think it does. I know. You've worked your whole life for this. You've sacrificed everything, and you deserve to enjoy this moment. But son, I want you to understand something. 20 years from now, That trophy will sit in a case somewhere collecting dust. It won't hug you when you're sad. It won't laugh at your jokes. It won't be there when you need someone. People will be there. Family will be there. I've watched you pour everything into basketball. I've seen you miss family dinners, skip vacations, work yourself until you collapse. And I understand why. Excellence requires sacrifice. But don't sacrifice so much that you wake up one day and realize you're a champion with no one to share it with. The greatest thing about winning isn't the trophy, Michael. It's having people who love you, whether you win or lose. Never forget that. Love. Dad Isaiah felt his throat get tight. His father had won 6 championships. Isaiah had grown up seeing those trophies in the house, to shining in their cases, symbols of greatness. But his grandfather had seen something else, something more important than winning. He picked up another letter. June 1992. June 20th, 1992. Michael, 2 championships now, back to back. You're becoming a legend. But I'm not writing about basketball today. I'm writing because I watched your interview after the finals. The reporter asked what's next, and you said, 3-peat, then 4, then 5. I won't stop until I'm the greatest ever. Son, ambition is good, but obsession is dangerous. I know you. I know how your mind works. You're already thinking about next season before this one has even ended. You're already worried about what you need to improve, who you need to outwork, how to be better. But Michael, you're missing it. You're missing the joy. When was the last time you played basketball just for fun? When was the last time you shot hoops with your brothers and just laughed? When did basketball stop being a game and start being a burden? I see it in your face during games. The intensity, the anger when things go wrong, the weight you carry. You're carrying the weight of being Michael Jordan. But son, that weight will crush you if you let it. Remember why you started playing? Remember the kid who used to shoot hoops in the driveway until the streetlights came on? Remember the pure love of the game. Don't lose that boy. He's still in there somewhere. Love, Dad. Isaiah wiped his eyes. He hadn't realized he was crying. These letters showed a side of his grandfather he'd never known. James Jordan hadn't just been proud of his famous son. He'd been worried about him. He worried he was losing himself. Worried the weight of fame was too heavy. And these letters showed a side of his father Isaiah had never seen. Michael before he became a legend. Michael when he was still becoming himself. Isaiah picked up another letter. This one was dated April 1993, just months before James Jordan died. April 10th, 1993. Michael, I've been thinking a lot about mortality lately. Getting older does that to a man. Makes you think about what you'll leave behind. Your mother thinks I'm being morbid. Maybe I am. But I want to write this down while I can. Son, I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. The championships, the awards, the respect you've earned. But that's not what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of who you are when no one's watching. I'm proud that you call your mother every week. And I'm proud that you help your brothers when they need it. I'm proud that you remember where you came from. But I want to talk to you about something important. Something I've been thinking about a lot. Fatherhood. One day, maybe soon, maybe later, you're going to have children. And when you do, everything will change. The championships won't matter anymore. The fame won't matter. The only thing that will matter is whether you're a good father. Let me tell you what I've learned. Being a good father means being present. Not perfect. Present. It means showing your children your whole self, your strengths and your weaknesses, your victories and your failures, your laughter and your tears. Too many men try to be heroes to their children. They try to be strong all the time, never showing fear or sadness or doubt. But that's not strength, Michael. That's hiding. Real strength is vulnerability. Real strength is letting your children see you cry, letting them see you fail, letting them see you're human. Because if they never see you struggle, they'll think something's wrong with them when they struggle. If they never see you cry, they'll think crying is weakness. If they never see you fail, they'll be terrified of failure. The greatest gift you can give your children is your humanity. When you have sons, and I hope you do, teach them what I taught you. Teach them to be gentle and strong at the same time. Teach them that real men cry, that real men admit when they're wrong, that real men ask for help. Teach them to be champions in life, not just in sports. And Michael, here's the most important thing. Tell them you love them, every single day. Don't make them guess. Don't make them earn it. Just love them freely and tell them so. I love you, son. I've loved you since the moment you were born. I've loved you through every victory and every defeat. I've loved you when you were easy to love and when you were difficult. That's what fathers do. We love unconditionally. Pass that down. Promise me you'll pass that down. Love, Dad, Isaiah's hands were shaking now. Tears were streaming down his face. This letter was written just months before his grandfather died. This was James Jordan somehow knowing that his time might be short. This was a father trying to pass down everything important before it was too late. And the message was clear. Be present. Be vulnerable. Be human. Isaiah thought about his own father, about Michael's intensity at basketball games, his high expectations, yet his difficulty showing emotion. His father had been trying to follow this advice, but somewhere along the way, he'd gotten stuck. He'd learned to be strong, but forgotten how to be vulnerable. He'd learned to push Isaiah toward greatness, but forgotten to just sit with him in the ordinariness of life. Isaiah picked up the final letter in the box. It was dated August 10th, 1993, 3 days before James Jordan was killed. The envelope was sealed with tape. Across the front, in James Jordan's handwriting, were these words, "To be opened on Michael's 13th year as a father to a son." Isaiah's heart started pounding. This was it. This was the promise. The letter was unfinished. Isaiah could see through the envelope that the paper inside looked incomplete, like James had been interrupted while writing it. But there was a second piece of paper attached to the envelope with a paperclip. A note in James's handwriting. "Michael, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you have a son who just turned 13. I had more to say. I was writing you one final letter with instructions, with wisdom, with everything I wanted you to know about being a father. But I didn't get to finish it. Life doesn't always give us time to say everything we need to say. Open this letter with your son. Read it together. Let him see that even I, your father, the man who seemed to have all the answers, didn't get to finish, didn't get to say everything I wanted to say." That's the point, Michael. We're all unfinished. All of us. We're all works in progress, doing our best, hoping it's enough. The promise I need you to make is this. Don't wait to tell your son you love him. Don't wait to show him your whole self. Don't wait to be vulnerable, because you might not get tomorrow. None of us might. I love you, son. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry I didn't get to finish this letter. But maybe that's okay. Maybe your son needs to see that even the best fathers are imperfect, Even the best men leave things unsaid. The goal isn't perfection, it's presence. Be present, Michael, before it's too late. Dad Isaiah sat frozen on the bed, the note in his hands, tears dripping onto the paper. This was the promise. This was what his father had whispered at the grave. Michael had promised James he would open this letter with his son, that he would be vulnerable, that he would show Isaiah his whole self, the grief, the doubt, the humanity behind the legend. And that day was coming. In 2 months, on Isaiah's 13th birthday, there was a soft knock on the door. "Isaiah?" Grandma Dolores's voice was gentle. "Can I come in?" "Yeah," Isaiah managed, his voice thick. She opened the door and saw the letters spread across the bed, saw Isaiah's tear-stained face. She sat down beside him and pulled him into a hug. "You read them?" "Yeah." "Do you understand now? Do you understand what your father is carrying?" Isaiah nodded against her shoulder. "He thinks he's not good enough. He thinks he hasn't been the father Grandpa wanted him to be." "That's right," Grandma Dolores said softly. "Your father is the greatest basketball player in the world, but he's terrified he's a failure at the only thing that really matters, being a good father." "But he's not a failure," Isaiah said. "He's just human." Grandma Dolores pulled back and looked at Isaiah with proud eyes. "That's exactly right, baby. He's human. And in 2 months, he's finally going to let you see that. He's finally going to keep his promise to his father." Isaiah looked down at the sealed letter in his hands, the unfinished one that would be opened on his birthday. "What do you think it says?" he asked. "I don't know," Grandma Dolores admitted, "but I know it's going to change both of you. Your father needs to read it, and you need to hear it. Together." Isaiah carefully placed all the letters back in the shoebox. His hands moved slowly, reverently, as if he were handling something sacred. Because he was. These weren't just letters. They were a bridge between generations, a conversation between a father and son that continued even after death, on a roadmap for how to be a man. Not a perfect man, but a present one. "Grandma?" Isaiah said quietly. "Yes, baby. I'm ready now. For whatever Dad needs to tell me. I'm ready to help him keep his promise." Grandma Dolores smiled through her tears and kissed his forehead. "That's good, Isaiah, because your father needs you more than you know. He just doesn't know how to say it yet." That night, Isaiah lay in bed, holding the sealed letter, imagining his grandfather writing it in the last days of his life, trying to say everything important, running out of time. And Isaiah understood something profound. Love was urgent. Life was fragile. And the time to be real with the people you loved wasn't someday. It was now. Isaiah returned home 3 days later with the shoebox tucked carefully in his backpack. And the drive home felt different than the drive there. He wasn't sulking or staring at his phone. Instead, he watched the landscape pass by, thinking about the letters, about his grandfather's words, about the weight his father had been carrying alone. When they pulled into the driveway, Isaiah saw his father's car parked in the garage. Michael was home early, unusual for a weekday afternoon. "Go say hi to your dad," Carmen said, grabbing grocery bags from the trunk. "He's been missing you." Isaiah walked through the house, his backpack heavy on his shoulders. He found Michael in his office, a room Isaiah rarely entered without permission. The office was more like a museum. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with trophies, medals, and framed jerseys. Championship rings sat on velvet displays. Signed basketballs rested on mahogany shelves. But Isaiah noticed something he'd never paid attention to before. On Michael's desk, Away from all the awards and accolades was a small section dedicated entirely to James Jordan. Photos of father and son together, a framed letter, a set of old car keys, a faded baseball cap. Michael was sitting at his desk, staring at one of the photos. He didn't notice Isaiah in the doorway. In the photo, young Michael, maybe 16 years old, stood next to his father, beside an old car with the hood open. Both of them were covered in grease, grinning at the camera. James had his arm around Michael's shoulders. They looked happy, easy. Just a father and son working on a car together. "Dad?" Isaiah said softly. Michael jumped slightly, quickly wiping his eyes before turning around. "Isaiah! Hey, buddy! When did you get back?" "Just now." Isaiah stepped into the office. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, of course. Just looking at old pictures." Michael's voice was too bright, too cheerful. The voice he used when he was pretending everything was fine. Isaiah set his backpack down and pulled out the shoebox. Michael's face changed immediately. The fake smile disappeared. "Your grandmother gave those to you." "Yeah." Isaiah placed the box on the desk. "She said it was time. She said you agreed." Michael stared at the box like it might explode. "I did agree. I didn't think it would be this hard." "Can we talk, Dad? Really talk?" Michael looked at his son, really looked at him, and something shifted in his expression. He nodded slowly and gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. Isaiah sat down, feeling suddenly nervous, and this was the most serious conversation they'd ever had. "I read all the letters," Isaiah began. "The ones Grandpa James wrote to you." Michael's jaw tightened. "All of them?" "Except the sealed one. The one for my birthday." Isaiah paused. "Is that the promise, Dad? That's what you whispered at the grave? That you'd open it with me?" Michael closed his eyes and nodded. "That's part of it." "What's the other part?" Michael was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "The other part is that I have to tell you the truth. About who I really am. About how scared I've been. About how I don't have all the answers." "I know you don't have all the answers," Isaiah said. "Nobody does." "But I'm supposed to," Michael said, his voice rising slightly. "I'm Michael Jordan. I'm supposed to be the best at everything. I'm supposed to know how to be a perfect father, just like I knew how to be a perfect player." "Grandpa didn't want you to be perfect," Isaiah said quietly. "He just wanted you to be present." Michael's eyes snapped to Isaiah's face. "You remember that line?" From the April letter. He wrote it a bunch of times. Be present, not perfect. Michael leaned back in his chair and covered his face with his hands. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then his shoulders started shaking. He was crying. Actually crying. Isaiah had never seen this before. Not once in 12 years. "Dad!" Isaiah didn't know what to do. "I'm sorry," Michael choked out. "I'm so sorry, Isaiah. I've been doing it all wrong." "No, you haven't." "Yes, I have." Michael dropped his hands. His face was wet with tears. "I've been so focused on making you great, on pushing you to be excellent, that I forgot to just be with you. I forgot to let you see me. The real me. Not the champion. Not the legend. Just me. Just your dad." Isaiah felt his own eyes filling with tears. "I don't need you to be a legend, Dad. I just need you to be my dad. I know that now, but I didn't always know it." Michael wiped his face roughly. "When my father died, I made myself a promise. I promised I would be exactly the kind of father he was. Patient, present, loving. But then life got complicated. I got busy. And somewhere along the way, I started coaching you instead of just being with you." "You do coach me a lot," Isaiah admitted. Michael laughed, a wet, broken sound. I do. God, I do. Every basketball game, every homework assignment, every conversation, I'm always trying to make you better, smarter, stronger. But you know what my father did? What? He just watched me play. He'd sit in the stands and cheer. Afterward, he'd take me for ice cream and ask if I had fun. That's it. No breakdown of what I did wrong. No lecture about what I should improve. He just loved watching me be myself. Isaiah thought about Marcus's grandfather, about how he just cheered, no matter what. I wish you'd do that sometimes, Isaiah said quietly. Just watch me play, and not tell me everything I did wrong. Michael flinched like he'd been hit. You're right. You're absolutely right. I've been so afraid of you being mediocre that I forgot to let you just be a kid. I don't mind working hard, Isaiah said. I don't mind you teaching me. I want you to be happy with me sometimes, even when I'm not perfect. I am happy with you. Michael's voice cracked. Isaiah, I'm so proud of you. Every single day. But I'm so bad at showing it. I'm so scared that if I tell you you're good enough, you'll stop trying. But my father never worried about that with me. He just loved me. And that made me want to work harder, not less. Isaiah stood up and walked around the desk. Without thinking, he wrapped his arms around his father. Michael grabbed him tight, holding on like Isaiah might disappear. They stood like that for a long time, both crying, both releasing years of unspoken feelings. I miss him, Michael whispered. I miss my dad every single day. And I've been so terrified of messing up with you because I don't have him here to ask for advice anymore. But you have his letters, Isaiah said. And you have Grandma. And you have me. You're not alone. On Dad. Michael pulled back and looked at Isaiah with red, swollen eyes. When did you get so wise? I read some really good letters, Isaiah said with a small smile. Michael laughed. A real laugh this time. Then he looked at the shoebox on his desk. There's one more letter in there. The sealed one. The one I'm supposed to open with you on your birthday. He took a shaky breath. I've been carrying that letter for almost 13 years, and I've been terrified to open it. Why? Because... Michael struggled to find the words. Because I'm afraid of what it says. I'm afraid he's going to give me instructions I haven't followed. I'm afraid he's going to tell me how to be a good father. And I'm going to realize I've failed. Isaiah shook his head. You haven't failed, Dad. You're human. That's what Grandpa wanted you to be. Just human. Michael stared at his son, this 12-year-old boy who suddenly seemed much older. Your birthday is in 2 months, Michael said. October 15th. I know. On that day, we're going back to the cemetery. You, me, and your mom, and your grandmother. We're going to stand at my father's grave, and we're going to open that letter together. And whatever it says, whatever he wanted me to know, I'm going to share it with you. All of it. No hiding. No pretending to be perfect. Okay, Isaiah said. And after that, I need you to help me, Isaiah. Help me be the father my dad wanted me to be. Help me remember to be present instead of perfect. Because I'm going to mess up. I'm going to forget. I'm going to fall back into old habits. I can do that, Isaiah promised. Michael pulled him into another hug. I love you, my son. I love you so much. And I'm sorry I don't say it enough. I love you too, Dad. They stood there in the office, surrounded by trophies and championships that suddenly seemed less important than they once did. Because Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player in the world, had just done something more difficult than winning any championship. He'd been vulnerable. He'd admitted he didn't have all the answers. He'd let his son see him cry. And in that moment, Isaiah loved his father more than he ever had before. Not because Michael was great, but because he was real. That night at dinner, Carmen noticed something different. Michael wasn't on his phone checking emails. He wasn't distracted, thinking about work or meetings. He was present, really present, asking Isaiah about his time at Grandma's house, listening to his stories, laughing at his jokes. At one point, Isaiah mentioned the tomato garden, and Michael's eyes got distant. "My dad loved that garden," he said softly. "He'd spend hours out there. I used to think it was boring. Now I understand. It wasn't about the tomatoes. It was about having something to nurture, something that grew slowly, with patience." "Maybe we could plant a garden," Isaiah suggested, "in the backyard." Michael looked at him, surprised. Then he smiled, a real, genuine smile. Yeah, I'd like that. We could plant tomatoes, beefsteak tomatoes, like my dad grew." "And you won't criticize my planting technique?" Isaiah teased. Michael laughed. "I'll try very hard not to." Carmen reached across the table and squeezed Michael's hand. She'd been waiting years for this, for her husband to let go of the weight he'd been carrying, and to let his son see his whole self. After dinner, Isaiah went upstairs to his room. He pulled out his journal, something his English teacher had made the class start last year, and began to write. "Dear Grandpa James, I never got to meet you. Not really, but I feel like I know you now because of your letters. Thank you for teaching Dad how to be a good man. Thank you for showing him that being strong means being gentle too. Thank you for all the wisdom you tried to pass down. I promise I'll help Dad keep his promise to you. I'll help him remember to be present. And when I'm a dad someday, I'll remember everything you taught him and everything he's teaching me. I wish you were here. But I also understand that you are here, in every good thing Dad does, in every lesson he teaches me, in every moment he's brave enough to be real. Love, yours, Isaiah." He closed the journal and looked at the calendar on his wall. 2 months until his 13th birthday. 2 months until they opened the final letter. 2 months until his father kept the promise he'd made at a grave 20 years ago. Isaiah could wait. Because now he understood what he was waiting for. Not answers, not perfection, just truth, just presence, just a father and son being real with each other. And that was worth waiting for. The next 2 months were the longest of Isaiah's life, not because they were boring or difficult, but because he was paying attention now, really paying attention to his father, to the small ways Michael honored James Jordan every single day without even realizing it. Isaiah started keeping a mental list. Week 1, small things. The first thing Isaiah noticed was the number 23. His father wore it, of course. Everyone knew that. But Isaiah had never known why Michael chose that number in the first place. One evening, Isaiah asked. They were in the garage, and Michael was showing Isaiah how to check the oil in a car, something James had taught him when he was young. "Dad, why did you pick number 23? Michael looked up from the engine, a slight smile on his face. "My father wore it in college. Not in basketball. He wasn't much of a player. But in baseball. He played center field and wore number 23. "So you wore it for him?" "Everything I did was for him," Michael said quietly. "Every game, every championship. I wanted to make him proud." Isaiah thought about that. Did he ever tell you he was proud? Every single day. Michael's voice got thick. Even when I had a terrible game, even when I messed up, he'd find me afterward and say, "I'm proud of you, son." Not proud of what I did, proud of who I was. Michael closed the car hood and looked at Isaiah. That's what I need to be better at with you. Telling you I'm proud of you just for being you, not for what you accomplish. Isaiah felt warmth spread through his chest. You're getting better at it. Yeah? Michael's eyes were hopeful. Yeah. That night, Michael tucked Isaiah into bed, something he hadn't done since Isaiah was 8 years old and declared himself too old for that baby stuff. Dad, what are you doing? Isaiah asked, surprised. Being present, Michael said simply. He sat on the edge of the bed. My father used to tuck me in every night until I was 13. Then he said I was old enough to put myself to bed. But he also said he missed it. So I'm not missing it with you. Not anymore. He kissed Isaiah's forehead, something else he hadn't done in years. I'm proud of you, Isaiah. Just for being my son. Nothing else. Just you. Isaiah blinked back tears. I'm proud to be your son, Dad. After Michael left, Isaiah lay in the dark, smiling. His father was trying. Really trying. Week 2, Old Habits. The second week, Isaiah watched his father slip back into old patterns during a basketball game. Isaiah's team was losing badly. He'd missed 3 shots in a row, turned the ball over twice, and gotten beaten on defense more times than he could count. In the bleachers, Michael sat forward, tension in every line of his body. Isaiah could feel his father's frustration from across the court. After another turnover, Isaiah glanced at the stands and saw Michael shake his head slightly. And that old familiar feeling crept back, the feeling that he was disappointing his father, that he wasn't good enough, that he was failing. The game ended with a 20-point loss. Isaiah walked slowly to the car, dreading the conversation he knew was coming. The breakdown of everything he'd done wrong, the lecture about focus and fundamentals. But in the car, Michael was quiet. Too quiet. Finally, Isaiah couldn't take it anymore. Just say it, Dad. Say what? Tell me everything I did wrong. I know you want to. Michael pulled the car over into a parking lot and turned to face Isaiah. You're right. I do want to. Every fiber of my being wants to go through that game play-by-play and explain what you should have done differently. Isaiah waited for it. But I'm not going to, Michael continued, because that's not what you need right now. And it's not what my father would have done. Isaiah stared at him. Did you have fun today? Michael asked. The question caught Isaiah off guard. What? Did you have fun? Playing basketball with your friends? Isaiah thought about it. The first half was fun. We were keeping it close. The second half, not so much. But you tried hard? Yeah. Then that's all that matters. Michael reached over and squeezed Isaiah's shoulder. I'm proud of you for trying. For not giving up even when things got tough. That's character, son. That's what my father would have seen. Isaiah felt tears prick his eyes. But we lost. And I played terrible. You had a bad game. Everyone has bad games. I had plenty of them. Michael smiled. Want to know a secret? The games I lost taught me more than the games I won. And because losing shows you what you're really made of. Were you disappointed in me today? Michael's face crumpled. Oh, Isaiah, no, never. I was frustrated watching you struggle because I wanted to help you. But disappointed? No, I'm proud of you. Always. He pulled Isaiah into a hug right there in the parking lot. I'm sorry, Michael whispered. I'm sorry I've made you feel like you have to be perfect. I'm sorry I've made you think my love depends on how well you play. It's okay, Dad. No, it's not. But I'm working on it. Michael pulled back. How about we go get ice cream? That's what my dad always did after tough games. Really? Really. And we don't have to talk about basketball at all. We can talk about anything you want. They went to the ice cream shop James Jordan used to take Michael to 40 years ago. But it was still there, still serving the same flavors. Michael ordered what his father always ordered: mint chocolate chip. Isaiah got cookies and cream. They sat in a booth, and Michael told Isaiah stories about his own bad games as a kid, about airballing free throws, about tripping over his own feet, about times he cried in the locker room because he'd played so poorly. "Grandpa saw you cry after games?" Isaiah asked, surprised. "All the time. And you know what he did? He let me cry. He didn't tell me to toughen up or be a man. He just sat with me until I was ready to talk. Then he'd remind me that one bad game didn't define me." Isaiah licked his ice cream cone thoughtfully. "I wish I could have known him." "Me too, son. Me too." That night, Isaiah wrote in his journal, "Dad is trying so hard. He's fighting against years of habit. And today, he won the fight. I'm proud of him." Week 3, the stories. The third week, Isaiah asked his father to tell him stories about James Jordan. Not the famous stories. Not the ones about how James supported Michael's career. But the small stories. The ordinary moments that made a life. They started a new tradition. Every night after dinner, they'd sit on the back porch, and Michael would share one memory of his father. "Tell me about a time Grandpa made you laugh," Isaiah would say. Or, "Tell me about something Grandpa taught you that wasn't about basketball." Or, "Tell me about a time you and Grandpa argued." Michael's memories poured out like water from a broken dam. Stories he'd been holding inside for 20 years, afraid that telling them would make the grief too real. But instead, the stories made James Jordan real. And Isaiah learned that his grandfather couldn't cook to save his life, that he once tried to make pancakes and somehow set them on fire. He learned that James Jordan sang in the shower, badly, off-key, usually Motown songs from the 60s. He learned that James was terrible at golf but played anyway because he loved being outside with his sons. He learned that James cried at movies, that he was afraid of spiders, that he once wore 2 different colored socks to church and didn't notice until Michael pointed it out. "He was just a regular guy," Isaiah said one night. "That's exactly what he was," Michael agreed. "Just a regular guy who happened to raise some decent kids. He'd be the first to tell you he wasn't special." "But he was special," Isaiah said, "because he made you feel special. Not because of what you could do, and just because you were his son." Michael looked at Isaiah with shining eyes. "When did you get so smart?" "I had a good teacher." Isaiah smiled. "Actually, I had 2. I just never got to meet one of them." That night, Michael pulled out an old photo album Isaiah had never seen before. It was filled with pictures of James Jordan, not at basketball games or important events, but just living life. James in the backyard, grilling burgers. James washing his car. James reading the newspaper on the porch. James holding baby Michael, looking at him with pure love. "These are the pictures I look at most," Michael admitted. "Not the ones of him at championships or big moments. These, the ordinary ones. Because these show who he really was." Isaiah studied each photo carefully, memorizing his grandfather's face, his smile, the way he held himself. "Oh, I see you in him," Isaiah said. "In the way you stand, the way you smile when you're really happy." "And I see him in you," Michael said. "You have his kindness, his gentle spirit, his ability to see the best in people." They sat together late into the night, looking at photos, telling stories, keeping James Jordan alive through memory. Week 4. The Dream. Isaiah had a dream about his grandfather. In the dream, he was young, maybe 5 years old, and he was in a garage. James Jordan was there, working on a car, humming a song. "Come here, little man," Dream James said, smiling. "Let me show you something." Dream Isaiah walked over, and James lifted him up so he could see the engine. "See this?" James pointed to something Isaiah didn't understand. "This is the heart of the car. Everything else is important, but this is what makes it run. And you take care of the heart, and the car will take care of you." "Is that true for people too?" Dream Isaiah asked. James set him down and knelt to his level. "Especially for people. You take care of your heart, fill it with love and kindness and truth, and it'll take care of you your whole life. What if your heart gets hurt? Then you let the people who love you help fix it. You don't hide it. You don't pretend it's fine when it's broken. You show it to your family, and you let them help." Dream James touched Isaiah's chest, right over his heart. "Your daddy has a hurt heart. Has for a long time. But he's learning to show it, to let people help fix it. You be patient with him, okay?" "Okay, Grandpa." James smiled, a warm, beautiful smile. "You're a good boy, Isaiah. I'm proud of you." Then Isaiah woke up. He lay in bed, his heart pounding, the dream still vivid in his mind. It had felt so real, like his grandfather had actually been there, actually spoken to him. Isaiah got out of bed and walked downstairs. It was almost midnight, but he saw a light on in his father's office. Michael was at his desk, looking at the sealed letter, the one they would open in 4 more weeks. Isaiah knocked softly on the doorframe. Michael looked up, startled. "Isaiah? What are you doing up?" "I had a dream about Grandpa." Michael's expression changed. "You did?" Isaiah nodded and came into the office. He told his father about the dream, about the garage, the car engine, the conversation about hearts. When he finished, Michael was crying silently. "That sounds exactly like something he would say," Michael whispered. "The heart of the car. And he used to tell me that all the time." "Dad, do you have a hurt heart?" Michael wiped his eyes and nodded. "Yeah, son, I do. I've had a hurt heart for 20 years. But I'm learning to show it. Learning to let people help fix it." Isaiah walked around the desk and hugged his father. "I'll help you fix it, Dad. I promise." Michael held him tight. "You already are, Isaiah. You already are." They stood like that for a long time, father and son, both connected to a man who had died years ago, but somehow was still present, still teaching, still loving them from beyond the grave. Week 7. The countdown. 3 weeks before Isaiah's birthday, the whole family could feel the tension building. Michael was anxious. Isaiah could see it in the way his father's hands shook sometimes, in how he'd stare at nothing, lost in thought. Carmen tried to help. "Maybe you should read it privately first," she suggested one evening. "No," Michael's voice was firm. "My father's instructions were clear. I open it with Isaiah on his 13th birthday. Not before, and not alone. What if it says something that's hard for Isaiah to hear? Then we'll deal with it together." Michael looked at his wife with determination. "That's the whole point, Carmen. No more hiding. No more pretending everything is perfect. We face it together." Carmen kissed his cheek. "Your father would be so proud of you." "I hope so," Michael said quietly. "God, I hope so." Week 8. The final days. 1 week before Isaiah's birthday, Grandma Dolores called. "I'm coming up for the birthday," she announced. "I need to be there when you open that letter." "Mom, you don't have to." "Yes, I do, Michael. James was my husband. You're my son. Isaiah is my grandson. This moment involves all of us. I'm coming." She arrived 3 days before the birthday, bringing with her the old basketball, the one Michael had left at the grave 2 months ago. "I went to visit him," she explained, "and I brought this back. I think you'll need it." The basketball sat on the kitchen table, a silent reminder of what was coming. The night before his 13th birthday, Isaiah couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the letter, wondering what it would say, wondering if it would change everything. Around midnight, his door opened quietly. Michael stood in the doorway, backlit by the hallway light. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "No." Michael came in and sat on the edge of Isaiah's bed. "I'm scared." "Yes, son." "Me too. I've been carrying that letter for almost 13 years. Tomorrow, I finally find out what my father's last words to me were. What if they're disappointed? What if he tells me I should have done things differently?" Isaiah sat up. "Then we'll know, and we'll figure it out together. That's what Grandpa wanted, right? For us to face things together?" Michael smiled in the darkness. "When did you become wiser than me?" "I learned from the best." Isaiah paused. "From both of you. From you and Grandpa." Michael pulled Isaiah into a hug. "Whatever that letter says tomorrow, I want you to know something. You've already helped me keep my promise. You've helped me be more present, more real, more human. You've made me a better father. You've made yourself better, Dad. I just watched. No, you did more than watch, and you gave me permission to be imperfect. And that's the greatest gift anyone has ever given me." They sat together in the quiet darkness, both knowing that tomorrow would change everything. "Ready?" Michael asked. "Ready," Isaiah confirmed. Tomorrow, they would open the letter. Tomorrow, they would keep the promise. Tomorrow, they would finally understand what James Jordan wanted them to know. The final words of a father who ran out of time but not out of love. And whatever those words were, they would face them together. Because that's what family did. They showed up, they stayed present, and they loved each other. Not perfectly, but honestly. That was enough. That was everything. Isaiah woke up to sunlight streaming through his window and the smell of pancakes drifting up from the kitchen. 13 years old. He lay in bed for a moment, feeling different somehow. Not physically. He hadn't magically grown overnight. But something inside him felt changed. More aware. More ready. Today was the day they would open the letter. He got dressed slowly, pulling on jeans and the Bulls t-shirt his father had given him last Christmas. When he came downstairs, the whole family was already gathered in the kitchen. Michael stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, something he rarely did. Carmen was setting the table, and Grandma Dolores sat at the counter, watching everything with soft eyes. "Happy birthday, baby," Carmen said, pulling Isaiah into a hug. 13, Grandma Dolores said, her voice thick with emotion. "My goodness, your grandfather would have loved to see this day." Michael turned from the stove and looked at Isaiah. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, nervousness, readiness. "Happy birthday, son." "Thanks, Dad." They ate breakfast together, but nobody talked about the letter. Instead, they shared normal birthday conversation. Carmen told embarrassing stories about Isaiah as a baby. Grandma Dolores talked about the sweater she'd knitted for him. Michael asked what Isaiah wanted to do to celebrate, but the sealed envelope sat on the counter where everyone could see it. Waiting. After breakfast, Michael cleared his throat. We should head to the cemetery around 10. Give ourselves time. Isaiah nodded, his stomach suddenly tight with nerves. I'm coming too, Carmen said firmly. I know James's instructions said you and Isaiah, but I need to be there, for both of you. Michael reached for her hand. Pa, I want you there. They drove to North Carolina in Michael's car, all four of them quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Isaiah watched the landscape pass by, the same roads they'd driven 2 months ago, but everything felt different now, heavier, more significant. Tell me something about him, Isaiah said suddenly. About Grandpa, something I don't know. Michael glanced at him in the rearview mirror. He was afraid of public speaking, hated it. But when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he stood up at the dinner and gave a speech about me. His hands were shaking so bad he could barely hold his notes. But he did it anyway, because he was proud and wanted everyone to know. That must have meant a lot to you. It meant everything. Michael's voice cracked slightly. He faced his fear for me. That's what love does. It makes you brave. Grandma Dolores reached over and squeezed Michael's shoulder from the back seat. The cemetery looked different than it had 2 months ago. The trees were beginning to turn colors, gold and orange and deep red. The air was crisp and cool. They walked together to James Jordan's grave, their footsteps slow and reverent. The old basketball was gone. Grandma Dolores had taken it home. But someone had left fresh flowers. Michael's sister, probably, or one of his brothers. The four of them stood in a semicircle around the headstone. Michael pulled the sealed envelope from his jacket pocket. His hands were shaking, the same trembling Isaiah had noticed 2 months ago. Carmen stood on one side of him, her hand on his back. Isaiah stood on the other side. Grandma Dolores stood slightly behind them, one hand on Michael's shoulder, one on Isaiah's. I've been carrying this for 12 years and 8 months, Michael said quietly, ever since Isaiah was born, waiting for this moment. Your father knew exactly what he was doing, Grandma Dolores said softly. He knew you'd need 13 years to become the father you needed to be before you could hear these words. Michael looked down at the envelope, then at the gravestone. Dad, he said to the stone, I hope I've done what you asked. I hope I've been present enough. I hope Isaiah knows I love him. His voice broke. I hope you're proud of me. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, it felt like James Jordan was there with them. Michael knelt down and placed his hand on the gravestone, just as he had 2 months ago. I'm ready now, and I'm ready to keep my promise. He stood up and looked at Isaiah. You want to open it? Isaiah's hands were shaking too, but he nodded. Michael handed him the envelope. The seal had yellowed with age. Isaiah carefully broke it open, trying not to tear the precious paper inside. He pulled out 2 sheets, both in James Jordan's familiar handwriting. The first page was filled with words. The second page had only a few lines at the top, then nothing. Unfinished. Should I read it out loud? Isaiah asked. Please, Michael whispered. Isaiah took a deep breath and began to read. August 10th, 1993. Michael, my son, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and it means you have a 13-year-old son. I'm writing this letter on a Tuesday afternoon. You're at practice. Your mother is at the grocery store. The house is quiet. And I've been thinking about mortality, about what I want to say to you before I run out of time to say it. 13 is an important age. It's when a boy starts becoming a man. It's when he starts seeing his parents as human beings instead of heroes. It's when real conversations can begin. I chose 13 for this letter because I want your son to hear what I have to say. I want him to understand that what I'm about to tell you applies to him too. This is wisdom meant to be passed down, generation to generation. Here's what I need you to know. You're going to fail as a father. Not might fail, will fail. Because every father fails. Every single one. We're all just humans trying to raise humans, and we mess up constantly. I failed you, Michael, more times than I can count. I was too hard on you sometimes, too soft other times. I said the wrong things. I missed important moments because I was working. I got impatient when you needed patience. I tried to teach you lessons when you just needed a hug. But here's what I learned. Failure isn't the end. It's just information. It tells you what to do differently next time. The fathers who really fail are the ones who pretend they never fail. The ones who act like they have all the answers. The ones who never apologize, never admit mistakes, never show their children that being human is okay. So this is my instruction to you. Fail openly. Apologize sincerely. Show your son your whole self, the victories and the defeats, the strengths and the weaknesses, the moments you're proud of and the moments you're ashamed of. Let him see you cry. Let him see you struggle. Let him see you ask for help. Because if he only sees your strength, he'll think something's wrong with him when he feels weak. If he only sees your confidence, he'll think something's wrong with him when he feels doubt. If he only sees your success, he'll think failure makes him unlovable. The greatest gift you can give your son is your humanity. Isaiah's voice was shaking now, but he continued reading. And Michael, here's the most important part. The part I need you to hear and really understand. Your son doesn't need you to be Michael Jordan. He needs you to be his dad. The championships, the fame, the legacy, those are wonderful. I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished, but your son won't remember trophies. He'll remember moments. He'll remember if you were present. He'll remember if you really saw him. He'll remember if you loved him for who he is, not who you want him to be. I see how hard you are on yourself. I see how you push for perfection in everything. That served you well in basketball. But fatherhood isn't basketball, son. There's no scoreboard, no final buzzer, no championship trophy. There's just showing up every single day and loving your child the best way you know how. And some days, your best will be really good. Other days, your best will be pretty weak. That's okay. That's being human. My promise to you has always been, I'm proud of you no matter what. Win or lose, succeed or fail, I'm proud of you for trying. Your promise to your son needs to be the same thing. I love you no matter what. Perfect or flawed, accomplished or ordinary. I love you for being you. Isaiah paused, wiping his eyes. Everyone was crying now. Michael, Carmen, Grandma Dolores. But he continued reading. Now, here's what I want you to do on your son's 13th birthday. Stand at my grave with him. Read him this letter. Then tell him 3 things. 1. Tell him about a time you failed as his father. Be specific. Be honest. Show him that you're not perfect. 2. Tell him what you learned from me that you want to pass on to him. Not basketball lessons, life lessons, the stuff that really matters. 3. Tell him you love him. Look him in the eyes and say the words. Tell him he's enough. Tell him he doesn't have to earn your love. He already has it, completely, forever. And Michael, after you tell him those 3 things, do one more. Ask him to forgive you. Ask him to forgive you for the times you've been too hard on him, for the times you've made him feel like he has to be perfect, for the times you've coached him when he just needed you to be his dad. Apologize. because that's what real men do. Real men own their mistakes and try to do better. Your son will remember this moment for the rest of his life. This moment when his father, his hero, knelt down and showed him what real strength looks like. Real strength is vulnerability. I love you, Michael. I've loved you since the moment you were born. I've loved you through every victory and every defeat. My love has never depended on your success. It's always been freely given. No conditions, no exceptions. Pass that love down. Let it flow through you to your son, and from him to his children, and on, forever. That's the real legacy, not championships. Love. Now, I have more to write. I want to tell you about... The letter ended mid-sentence, and the second page had only those few words. Now, I have more to write. I want to tell you about... Then nothing. James Jordan had run out of time. Isaiah lowered the letter, tears streaming down his face. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was crying. All four of them weeping together at the grave of a man who had known, somehow, exactly what needed to be said. Finally, Michael knelt down, right there in the grass, in front of his father's grave, in front of his family. He knelt down, and he looked up at Isaiah. Son, I need to tell you 3 things, just like my father asked. Isaiah knelt down too, facing his father. Carmen and Grandma Dolores stood above them, witnessing. Michael took Isaiah's hands. First, I need to tell you about a time I failed as your father. His voice was raw with emotion. Last month, you had that basketball game where you played badly, and in the car afterward, I almost tore into you. I almost gave you a full breakdown of everything you did wrong. Because that's what I do. I coach, I critique, I push for perfection. But in that moment, you didn't need a coach. You needed a dad who would just love you through a bad day. And I almost failed you. I caught myself, but barely. And I've done that hundreds of times before, put pressure on you when you just needed acceptance. Isaiah squeezed his father's hands. But you didn't fail, Dad. You stopped yourself. You took me for ice cream instead. But I shouldn't have had to stop myself. It should have been my first instinct, to love you, not to fix you. Michael took a shaky breath. I'm sorry for all the times I made you feel like my love depended on your performance. It never has. It never will. I know that now, Isaiah said softly. Second, Michael continued, what I learned from my father that I want to pass on to you. Your grandfather taught me that real strength is gentleness, that real men cry, that real men admit when they're wrong, that showing up is more important than being perfect. He taught me that love is the only thing that really matters, and everything else is just noise. I want you to learn that too, Isaiah. I want you to know that being vulnerable isn't weakness, it's courage. Isaiah nodded, unable to speak. And third, Michael's voice broke completely. I love you, Isaiah. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. You are enough, exactly as you are. You don't have to be a great basketball player. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to accomplish anything extraordinary. You just have to be you, kind, thoughtful, genuine you. And that's more than enough for me. You've always had my love, completely, forever. Nothing you could do would change that. He pulled Isaiah into his arms, holding him tight. And now, the last thing, Michael whispered into Isaiah's hair. Will you forgive me? For the times I've been too hard on you? For the times I made you feel like you had to earn my approval? For the times I was Michael Jordan, the legend, instead of just Michael Jordan, your dad? Isaiah was sobbing now. There's nothing to forgive, Dad. You've been a good father. You've been learning. That's all anyone can do. But will you forgive me anyway? Yes, Isaiah said. Yes, I forgive you. They held each other there at the grave, father and son. They're both broken open by the words of a man who had died 20 years ago, but was somehow still teaching them how to love. Carmen and Grandma Dolores knelt down too, wrapping their arms around both of them. The four of them stayed there, huddled together, crying and healing and letting go of years of weight they'd been carrying. Finally, Grandma Dolores spoke, her voice soft but strong. James, your son heard you. He kept his promise. And look at what you created. Not just a great basketball player, but a man brave enough to be vulnerable. A father learning to love the way you loved him. She looked at Isaiah. And you, sweet boy. You helped your father find his way back. You gave him permission to be human. Your grandfather would be so proud of both of you. Michael stood up slowly, helping Isaiah to his feet, and he turned to the gravestone and placed both hands on it. Thank you, Dad, he said. Thank you for knowing I'd need this letter. Thank you for giving me permission to be imperfect. Thank you for loving me the way you did. I promise I'll pass it down. I promise I'll keep teaching Isaiah what you taught me. He picked up the old basketball that Grandma Dolores had brought with them, the one that had traveled from James to Michael to Isaiah. This ball represents our family, Michael said, holding it up. It's old, it's worn, it's been through a lot, but it's still good, still whole, still capable of bringing joy. He handed it to Isaiah. This is yours now, not because you have to play basketball, but because it connects you to all of us, to your grandfather who gave it to me who's giving it to you. And one day, you'll give it to your son, and you'll tell him the same things we've learned. Be present, be vulnerable, be human, and love. Love without conditions, love without limits, love like your life depends on it. Isaiah held the basketball, feeling its weight, not just the physical weight, but the weight of generations, of promises kept, of love passed down. I promise, Dad. I promise, Grandpa. I'll remember everything. They stood together at the grave for a long time, not wanting to leave, not ready to end this moment. Finally, Michael said, "Should we go? There's a birthday cake waiting at home." "One more minute," Isaiah said. He knelt down by himself this time and placed his hand on his grandfather's name carved in stone. "Thank you, Grandpa," he whispered. "Thank you for teaching Dad how to love. Thank you for these letters. Thank you for helping us find each other." The wind picked up again, rustling the leaves, and Isaiah could have sworn he felt something. A warmth, a presence, an assurance that James Jordan had heard him, that he was proud, that love, once given, never really dies. It just keeps getting passed down, generation after generation, forever. The ride home was different from the ride there, lighter somehow, as if opening that letter had released something heavy that had been pressing down on all of them for years. Isaiah sat in the back seat, the old basketball in his lap, the letter carefully folded in his pocket. He kept touching the pocket, making sure the letter was still there, that it was real, that this whole morning had actually happened. Michael drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding Carmen's hand. And Isaiah caught him smiling, really smiling, for the first time in what felt like forever. "What are you thinking about, Dad?" Isaiah asked. Michael glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "I'm thinking about how much lighter I feel. Like I've been carrying a 100-pound weight on my shoulders for 20 years, and I just set it down." "The promise," Isaiah said. "Yeah, the promise." Michael's eyes were bright. I've been so afraid of that letter. Afraid my father was going to tell me I'd done everything wrong, that I'd failed him. But instead, he gave you permission to be human, Carmen finished softly. He always gave me that permission, Michael said. I just wasn't ready to accept it until now. Until Isaiah helped me see it. Grandma Dolores reached forward and touched Michael's shoulder. So, you know what your father would say if he were here right now? What? I told you so. She laughed through her tears. He'd say, I told you that boy would help you find your way. I told you 13 was the right age. Michael laughed too. A real, full laugh. He would definitely say that. He loved being right. He was right about a lot of things, Isaiah said quietly. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, each of them processing the morning in their own way. Finally, Grandma Dolores spoke again. Michael, do you remember what you said at your Hall of Fame speech, when you talked about your father? Some of it. Why? You said, my father taught me that success isn't about what you accomplish. It's about what you inspire. Do you remember that? Michael nodded slowly. Yeah, I do. That letter today, that's exactly what James meant. He wasn't trying to make you accomplish something. He was trying to inspire you to be brave enough to be vulnerable, to love openly, to pass down what matters. Grandma Dolores's voice was thick with emotion. And you did it, baby. You did exactly what he asked. Michael pulled the car over to the side of the road, right there on the highway. He turned around in his seat and looked at Isaiah. I need you to understand something, son. Today wasn't just about me keeping a promise to my father. It was about me making a new promise to you. What promise? I promise I'll never make you feel like you have to be perfect. I promise I'll tell you I love you every single day. I promise I'll show you my whole self, the good parts and the messy parts. And I promise that when I mess up, because I will mess up, I'll apologize and try to do better. Isaiah felt tears rising again. I promise I'll let you be human, Dad. I promise I won't expect you to be perfect either. Michael smiled. Deal. He reached back, and they shook hands, firm and solid, a promise between men. Then Michael pulled Isaiah forward into an awkward hug over the car seat, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. Okay, Carmen said, laughing too. Can we please get home? We have a birthday party to get to, and I have a cake in the fridge that's not going to eat itself. Michael started driving again, and the rest of the trip home felt like floating, light and easy and right. When they got home, Isaiah expected a quiet family celebration. Just cake and maybe a few presents. Instead, when they walked through the door, they found the living room full of people. Surprise! Isaiah jumped. The room was packed, his uncles, aunts, cousins, and friends from school. Even Marcus was there, grinning from ear to ear. Happy birthday! Everyone shouted. Isaiah looked at his mother. You planned this? Carmen smiled. Your dad and I both did. We thought you deserved a real celebration. The party was perfect. Not fancy or over the top, just full of people who loved him. There were games and music and laughter. The kind of easy, comfortable gathering that James Jordan would have loved. At one point, Isaiah found himself sitting on the back porch with Marcus and a few other friends. They were eating cake and talking about nothing important. Video games, movies, who was going to make the basketball team next year. Normal stuff, yet easy stuff. Michael came outside and sat down on the porch steps near them. He didn't interrupt their conversation. He just sat there, present, listening to them talk and laugh. Isaiah noticed his father watching him with a soft smile, not analyzing his performance or judging his behavior, just watching, just being there. Their eyes met, and Michael nodded slightly, a simple gesture that said, "I see you. I'm here. I love you." Isaiah nodded back, a gesture that said, "I know. Thank you." No words needed, just presence. Later, after most of the guests had left, the family gathered in the living room. Michael stood up and cleared his throat. "I want to say something before this day ends." Everyone got quiet. Today was Isaiah's 13th birthday, but it was also the day I finally kept a promise I made to my father 20 years ago. Michael's voice was steady but emotional. I opened a letter he wrote me before he died. A letter that taught me something I should have learned a long time ago. He looked around at his family, his mother, his brothers, his wife, his son. I've spent most of my life trying to be perfect, trying to be the best basketball player, the best competitor, the best at everything. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that the people I love don't need me to be perfect. They just need me to be present. Michael walked over to Isaiah and put his hand on his shoulder. "My son taught me that. This 12, he smiled. Now 13-year-old boy taught me how to be vulnerable, how to admit when I'm wrong, how to show up as my whole self. I'm not just the polished version." He looked at Dolores. "Mom, I'm sorry it took me so long to let you see me grieve, to let you see me struggle. You've been there the whole time, and I kept pushing you away because I thought being strong meant being alone." Dolores stood up and hugged her son tightly. "You were never alone, baby. Never." Michael turned to his brothers, Larry and James Jr., who had been sitting quietly. "And I'm sorry I set the bar so high that you felt like you had to compete with me. Dad loved all of us the same. I just forgot to show you that I love you guys too, no matter what you accomplish." Both brothers stood up, and the three of them embraced, something Isaiah had rarely seen them do. Finally, Michael looked at Carmen. "And to my wife, who has been patient with me for years while I figured this out, thank you. Thank you for loving me when I was too hard on Isaiah. Thank you for reminding me what matters. Thank you for being the heart of this family." Carmen wiped her eyes. "That's what family does, Michael. We stick together through the hard parts." Michael nodded. "That's exactly right. And that's what I want this family to be from now on. People who stick together through the hard parts. People who show up honestly. People who love without conditions." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the letter from his father. "My dad ran out of time to finish this letter, but I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm not going to wait to tell the people I love how much they mean to me." He looked around the room. "I love you all. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being part of Isaiah's life, yet thank you for being family." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. That night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, Isaiah sat on his bed with the basketball beside him. There was a knock on his door. "Come in." Michael entered, carrying something wrapped in brown paper. "I have one more birthday present for you," he said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Isaiah took the package and unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a beautiful leather journal with his initials embossed on the cover. "What's this for?" "For your letters," Michael said. "My father wrote letters to me. I want you to start writing letters too. Not to me necessarily, though you can if you want, but letters to your future self. Letters to your future children. Letters about what you're learning, what you're feeling, what matters to you." He opened the journal to the first page. There, in Michael's handwriting, was an inscription. "To Isaiah, on your 13th birthday, the day we opened your grandfather's letter and learned what it means to be truly present. Write your own wisdom. Pass down your own lessons. Be the bridge between generations. I love you, son. Always have. Always will. Dad. Isaiah ran his fingers over the words. I'll write in it every week. Good, Michael smiled. And when you have a son one day, you'll give him these letters. And the cycle continues. The cycle of love, Isaiah said. Exactly. They sat together in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Isaiah said, Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Grandpa knew when he wrote that letter? And did he know it would change everything? Michael thought about it. I think my father knew that love always changes everything. He knew that honesty breaks down walls. He knew that vulnerability creates connection. So, yeah, I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He was smart. He was wise, Michael corrected. There's a difference. Smart is knowing things. Wise is understanding people. My father understood people better than anyone I've ever known. Isaiah picked up the basketball, holding it in his lap. Do you think he's proud of us? Of what we did today? Michael's eyes filled with tears, but he was smiling. I think he's been proud of us all along. We just needed to be brave enough to feel it. He stood up and moved toward the door. Get some sleep, birthday boy. We're planting that tomato garden tomorrow morning. Really? Really? Your grandfather's garden. Our garden now. 3 generations connected by dirt and seeds and patience. I'd like that. Me too, son. Me too. Michael paused in the doorway. Hey, Isaiah? Yeah, Dad? Thank you. For what? For helping me keep my promise. For being patient with me while I figured out how to be the father my dad asked me to be. For loving me even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it, Dad. You just didn't believe it. Michael smiled, that same soft, genuine smile Isaiah had seen more and more of lately. Good night, son. I love you. I love you too, Dad. After his father left, Isaiah opened the journal to the first blank page. He picked up a pen and started writing. Dear future Isaiah, today was my 13th birthday. And today, my dad and I opened a letter from my grandfather, a man I never really got to know but who taught me everything anyway. Here's what I learned. Love is the only thing that matters. Not accomplishments, not perfection, just love. Honest, vulnerable, imperfect love. My grandfather loved my dad by giving him permission to be human. My dad is learning to love me the same way. And one day, I'll love my own children like that too. That's the promise. That's the legacy. Not championships or fame, just love, passed down, generation after generation. I'm going to keep this promise. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be brave enough to show the people I love who I really am. All of me, the good and the messy parts. Because that's what real strength looks like. That's what Grandpa James taught us. And I'll never forget it. Isaiah closed the journal and set it on his nightstand next to the basketball. Outside his window, the moon was full and bright. Somewhere in North Carolina, at a quiet cemetery, James Jordan rested peacefully under the stars. But his words were alive. His wisdom was being lived out. His love was continuing to flow through his son, through his grandson, and someday through his great-grandchildren. The promise had been kept. And in keeping it, Michael and Isaiah had learned the most important lesson of all. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You just have to be present. You just have to be honest. You just have to be brave enough to let people see your whole heart. The strong parts and the broken parts, the victories and the failures, the joy and the grief. That's what family means. That's what love means. And that's a promise worth keeping. Generation after generation. Forever. Isaiah turned off his light and closed his eyes, feeling more connected to his father and grandfather than he ever had before. He fell asleep holding the basketball, dreaming of gardens and letters and love that never dies. It just keeps growing, like seeds planted in good soil, producing fruit that feeds everyone who comes after. Tomorrow, they would plant tomatoes. Tomorrow, they would start building new memories while honoring old ones. Tomorrow, they would continue the legacy James Jordan had started. Not a legacy of fame or achievement, but a legacy of love freely given, honestly expressed, and faithfully passed down. That was the promise. And it had finally been kept. 1 year later, Isaiah stood in front of his grandfather's grave. But this time he wasn't alone with just his father. His younger cousin Marcus, not his friend Marcus, but his 10-year-old cousin from his Uncle Larry's side, stood beside him, looking confused and a little bored. "Why are we here?" Marcus asked, kicking at a small rock. "I didn't even know Great-Grandpa James." Isaiah smiled. He remembered asking similar questions once, remembered not understanding why death mattered, why graves mattered, why any of this mattered. "That's exactly why we're here," Isaiah said gently. "So you can know him." Marcus scrunched up his nose. "But he's dead." "Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's gone." Isaiah knelt down next to the headstone, and Marcus reluctantly knelt beside him. From his backpack, Isaiah pulled out the old basketball, the one that had traveled from James to Michael to him. Marcus's eyes widened. "Hey, is that really from 1978? 1978, Isaiah confirmed. "Great-Grandpa James gave this to my dad when Dad was 13. Then Dad gave it to me last year when I turned 13. And one day, when you're 13, I'm going to give it to you." "Really?" Marcus looked at the ball with new interest. "Really? But first, you have to understand what it means." Isaiah set the ball down at the base of the gravestone, just like his father had done a year ago. This ball isn't just about basketball. It's about family. It's about promises we make to each other. What kind of promises? Isaiah thought about how to explain it in a way a 10-year-old would understand. Promises to be honest, to show up for each other, to love each other even when we mess up. Marcus was quiet for a moment, staring at the ball. "Did Great-Grandpa James mess up sometimes?" "All the time," Isaiah said, smiling. "He wrote letters to my dad about it, about how being a good father meant being honest about your mistakes, not pretending you're perfect." "My dad messes up a lot," Marcus said matter-of-factly. "All dads do. That's what makes them human." Isaiah placed his hand on the cold gravestone. "Great-Grandpa James died when I was only 2 years old. I don't remember him at all. But I know him anyway, because of the things he taught my dad, and the things my dad is teaching me." "Like what?" "Like how real strength means being brave enough to cry. How love is more important than winning. How being present with people matters more than being perfect." Isaiah looked at Marcus. "And now I'm going to teach you the same things, because that's how family works. When we pass stuff down." Marcus reached out tentatively and touched the basketball. "It feels old." "It is old, but it's still good. Just like the lessons Great-Grandpa James taught us. They're old, but they're still good. They still work." From about 20 feet away, Michael stood watching. He'd driven Isaiah and Marcus here today, but he'd hung back, letting Isaiah take the lead. Carmen stood beside Michael, her hand in his. She squeezed his fingers gently. "Look at him," she whispered. "He's doing exactly what your father did for you, passing it down." Michael's eyes were wet. I never imagined Isaiah would understand so deeply. He's only 14. Your father knew, Carmen said. That's why he wrote those letters. He knew that truth, once learned, gets passed down naturally. Love multiplies. Michael watched Isaiah explain something else to Marcus, who was now listening with genuine interest instead of boredom. He's a better teacher than I was at his age, Michael said quietly. He learned from the best, Carmen replied. He learned from you, who learned from your father. That's 3 generations of good men, Michael. That's a legacy. Isaiah pulled out a folded piece of paper from his pocket. I want to read you something, Marcus. It's from a letter Great-Grandpa James wrote to my dad before he died. Marcus sat cross-legged in the grass, looking up at Isaiah expectantly. Isaiah read, "The greatest gift you can give your children is your humanity. Let them see you cry. Let them see you struggle. Let them see you ask for help. Because if they only see your strength, they'll think something's wrong with them when they feel weak." He folded the letter back up. Do you understand what that means? Marcus thought about it. I think so. It means it's okay to not be okay sometimes? Exactly. Isaiah smiled. It means you don't have to pretend to be tough all the time. You can be sad, you can be scared, you can mess up, and none of that makes you weak. It just makes you human. Does your dad cry? Marcus asked. Yeah, he does now. He didn't used to, but he does now. Isaiah glanced over at his father. And it doesn't make him less strong. It actually makes him stronger. Because it takes more courage to cry than to pretend you're fine when you're not. Marcus nodded slowly, processing this. My dad doesn't cry. He says, boys don't cry. Isaiah felt a pang in his chest. He remembered feeling that way once. Remembered thinking emotions were weakness. That's not true, Isaiah said firmly, but gently. Boys cry, men cry. Great-Grandpa James cried, my dad cries, I cry. We all cry because we're all human, and humans have feelings. But what if the other kids make fun of me? Then those kids haven't learned what we're learning. They haven't learned that being real is braver than pretending. Isaiah put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. And maybe one day, you'll teach them. Just like I'm teaching you right now. Marcus looked up at the gravestone, at James Jordan's name carved in stone. I wish I could have met him. Me too, Isaiah said softly. But in a way, you are meeting him. Right now. Through these stories. Through these lessons. Through this basketball. He picked up the ball and handed it to Marcus. Here, I'll hold it. Marcus took the ball carefully like it might break. Feel that? Isaiah asked. That's history. That's love. That's 3 generations of men who learned how to be better fathers, better sons, better humans. And now you're part of it too. Marcus held the ball close to his chest. Can I be part of it, even though I'm only 10? You're part of it right now. This moment. You standing here, listening, learning, caring, that's you being part of the legacy. Isaiah smiled. And when you're 13, I'll bring you back here and we'll have a longer talk. And I'll officially give you this ball. But for now, you just need to remember, you're loved. You're enough. And you don't have to be perfect. Marcus nodded seriously. Okay, I'll remember. Michael and Carmen walked over to join them. So Michael knelt down next to Marcus and ruffled his hair. What do you think, buddy? You learning some good stuff? Isaiah says it's okay to cry, Marcus said, looking up at Michael. Is that true, Uncle Mike? Michael's face softened. He glanced at Isaiah, then back at Marcus. It's very true. I didn't used to think so, but I learned better. Your great-grandfather taught me that. Isaiah says you cry now. I do, Michael said without hesitation. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm proud of Isaiah or your other cousins. I cry because I'm human, and humans feel things deeply. Marcus seemed to relax a little. My dad says crying is for babies. Michael exchanged a look with Carmen, then with Isaiah. This was a teaching moment, not just for Marcus, but for the whole family. Marcus, can I tell you something important? Michael asked. Sure. Your dad loves you very much, but sometimes even parents who love us teach us things that aren't quite right. Not because they're bad people, but because they learned those things from their parents. Who learned them from their parents? It's a cycle. Like the basketball? Marcus asked. Exactly like the basketball. Except some things we pass down are good, and some things aren't so good. The trick is knowing which is which. Michael put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Crying isn't for babies. Crying is for anyone who's brave enough to feel their feelings instead of hiding them. And I think you're brave enough. Do you? Marcus nodded slowly. I think so. Good. Because this family, the Jordan family, we're breaking old cycles and starting new ones. We're teaching each other that it's okay to be real. Okay to be imperfect. Okay to be human. Michael looked up at his father's grave. My dad started teaching me that. I'm still learning it. Isaiah is learning it. And now you're learning it too. Carmen knelt down as well, completing the circle around Marcus. And sweetheart, if you ever need to cry, or if you're ever feeling sad or scared or confused, you can come to any of us. We won't judge you. We won't tell you to toughen up. We'll just be there with you. That's what family does. Marcus looked around at all three of them, Uncle Mike, Aunt Carmen, and his cousin Isaiah, and something in his young face shifted. Like a weight he didn't know he was carrying had just lifted. Thank you, he said quietly. Isaiah handed him the basketball. Take this for today. To shoot some hoops when you get home. And remember where it came from. Remember that you're part of something bigger than yourself. Marcus clutched the ball tightly. I will. I promise. They stayed at the cemetery for another 20 minutes. Michael told stories about his father. Funny ones that made Marcus laugh. Stories about James fixing cars, burning pancakes, singing off-key in the shower. He was just a regular guy, Michael said, echoing what Isaiah had said a year ago. But he understood something most people never learn. Love is the most important thing. Not success, not money, not fame, just love. And he loved you? Marcus asked. More than anything, Michael said, his voice thick. And because he loved me so well, I learned how to love Isaiah. And because I'm learning to love Isaiah well, he's learning how to love the next generation, including you. Marcus looked at Isaiah with something like awe. You love me? Isaiah smiled. Of course I do. You're family. That means I love you automatically. No conditions, no exceptions. Even when I'm annoying? Even when you're annoying, Isaiah confirmed, laughing. They all laughed together, the sound carrying across the quiet cemetery. Finally, it was time to leave. Marcus carefully handed the basketball back to Isaiah. You keep it safe, Marcus said seriously. Until I'm 13. I will, Isaiah promised. I'll guard it with my life. As they walked back to the car, Marcus slipped his hand into Isaiah's. It was a simple gesture, but it meant everything. It meant trust. It meant connection. It meant the legacy was continuing. Michael walked behind them, watching his son guide his young cousin with patience and wisdom beyond his years. Carmen linked her arm through Michael's. Your father would be so proud, she whispered. I hope so, Michael said. God, I hope so. He would be. Look at what you created. Look at Isaiah. Look at how naturally he's passing down everything James taught you. Michael watched Isaiah and Marcus climb into the back seat, still talking, still connecting. It's working, Michael said, almost to himself. The promise, the legacy, it's actually working. Of course it's working, Carmen said. Love always works. It just takes time. On the drive home, Marcus fell asleep, his head against the window. Isaiah sat quietly, holding the basketball, thinking about the morning. You did good today, son, Michael said, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. Thanks, Dad. I just tried to remember what you taught me. You did more than that. You made it your own. You found your own way to pass it down. Michael's voice was full of pride. That's exactly what my father wanted. Not for us to repeat what he said word for word, but to understand it deeply enough to teach it in our own way. Do you think Marcus understood? I think he understood enough. And what he didn't understand today, he'll understand later. That's how it works. We plant seeds, and they grow over time. Isaiah looked out the window at the passing landscape. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you still miss Grandpa? Michael was quiet for a moment. Every single day. But it's different now. It doesn't hurt as much. Now, when I think about him, I feel grateful instead of sad. Grateful for the time we had. Ungrateful for the lessons he taught me. Grateful that he loved me enough to write those letters. I'm grateful too, Isaiah said softly. Even though I never really knew him, I'm grateful for him. Because he made you who you are. And you're making me who I'm becoming. Michael had to wipe his eyes. Even after a year of practicing vulnerability, moments like this still caught him off guard. That's the legacy, Isaiah. That's what lasts. Not the trophies or the fame, just the love we pass down, the lessons we share, the time we spend being present with each other. I won't forget, Isaiah promised. When I have kids someday, I'll teach them the same things. I'll bring them to Grandpa's grave. I'll tell them the stories. I'll give them the basketball. I know you will, son. I know you will. That night, so Isaiah wrote in his journal, Dear future Isaiah, today I took Marcus to Grandpa James's grave. It was the first time I've passed down the lessons on my own, without Dad leading the way. It felt strange at first. I'm only 14. What do I know about teaching important life lessons? But then I remembered. I know what I've learned. I know what Grandpa James taught Dad. I know what Dad has taught me. And that's enough. You don't have to be old to pass down wisdom. You just have to have learned it deeply enough that it's part of who you are. Marcus held the basketball today like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because to him, it was. It represented being part of something bigger than himself. Being loved. Being accepted. Being valued just for being him. That's what Grandpa James started. That's what Dad continued. And that's what I'm continuing now. Love passed down. Generation after generation. Some promises take a lifetime to keep. But the best ones, the ones that matter, are kept in small moments like today, where love is louder than loss, and family is forever. I'm keeping the promise, Grandpa. I'm keeping it alive. Isaiah. He closed the journal and set it on his nightstand next to a framed photo Michael had given him. A picture of James Jordan holding baby Michael, both of them smiling at the camera. Isaiah had never seen that photo before his father gave it to him last week. I want you to have this, Michael had said, so you can see the love in his eyes. That's the love he gave me. That's the love I'm giving you. That's the love you'll give your children. Isaiah looked at the photo now, studying his grandfather's face, and the kindness in his eyes, the gentle smile, the way he held baby Michael like he was the most precious thing in the world. That was love. Not perfect love, not superhero love, just human love. Honest, vulnerable, present, and it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. Isaiah turned off his light and closed his eyes, feeling connected to 3 generations of men who had learned, slowly and imperfectly, how to love well. His great-grandfather, who had worked in a garage and grown tomatoes and written letters filled with wisdom. His father, who had been the greatest basketball player in the world but was learning that being a great dad mattered more. And himself, 14 years old, still figuring things out, but already understanding the most important lesson. Presence is better than perfection. Vulnerability is strength. And love, real, honest, imperfect love, is the only legacy that truly matters. The promise had been kept, and now it was being passed on, generation after generation, forever, 14 years later. Isaiah Jordan stood in the maternity ward of a Chicago hospital, staring through the glass at a tiny baby wrapped in a blue blanket. His son, born just 2 hours ago at 6:47 in the morning. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect in every way. Isaiah pressed his hand against the glass, his eyes filling with tears. He was 28 years old now, married to his college sweetheart, Elena, and somehow, impossibly, he was a father. Behind him, footsteps approached. He didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "He's beautiful, son," Michael said softly, coming to stand beside Isaiah. "He's so small," Isaiah whispered. I'm terrified I'm going to break him." Michael laughed, that warm, genuine laugh Isaiah had come to love over the years. "I felt the same way when you were born, like I didn't know how to hold something so fragile. Your grandmother had to show me 3 times how to support your head." They stood side by side, watching the baby sleep peacefully, unaware of the men watching him, unaware of the legacy he'd just become part of. "What are you going to name him?" Michael asked. Isaiah took a deep breath. He and Elena had discussed this for months. They'd made lists, debated, changed their minds a dozen times. But standing here now, looking at his son, Isaiah knew there was only one right answer. "James," he said quietly. "James Raymond Jordan. After Grandpa." Michael's breath caught. He turned to look at Isaiah, his eyes shining with tears. "Are you sure? That's a big name to carry." "I'm sure." Isaiah kept his eyes on the baby. "I never got to meet him, but he's been part of my life every single day. Every lesson you taught me came from him. Every moment of love, every piece of wisdom. It all traces back to Grandpa James." Michael put his arm around Isaiah's shoulders. He would be so honored, so proud. "I hope I can be the kind of father he was, the kind you've become." "You will be," Michael said with certainty, "because you already understand what matters. You learned it young. It took me 13 years to figure out what you've known since you were a kid." Isaiah smiled. "I had a good teacher. We both did." They watched baby James yawn, his tiny fists stretching above his head. "Dad," Isaiah said after a moment, "I want to do something important." "What's that?" "I want to write him a letter, like Grandpa did for you. A letter for when he turns 13. So he'll understand where he comes from. So he'll know about the promise." Michael's eyes overflowed. "That's perfect, Isaiah. That's exactly perfect." "Will you help me write it?" "Of course. But son, you don't need my help. You know what to say. It's already in you. 3 days later, Isaiah sat in his home office with a blank piece of paper in front of him. Elena was upstairs with baby James, both of them resting. The house was quiet, except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Isaiah picked up his pen and began to write. My dearest James, if you're reading this, you're 13 years old today. A teenager, on the edge of becoming a man. I'm writing this letter when you're only 3 days old. Right now, you're sleeping upstairs, making those little squeaking sounds that babies make. You're so tiny, I can hold you in one arm. Your whole hand can barely wrap around my finger. But I'm writing to you now because I want you to know something important. You are already loved. Before you've done anything, accomplished anything, proven anything, you are completely, unconditionally loved. You don't have to earn it. You can't lose it. It's yours, forever. Let me tell you about the man you're named after. Your great-grandfather, James Raymond Jordan. He died 27 years before you were born, so you'll never meet him. But in a way, you already know him, because everything good about our family comes from him. Isaiah paused, thinking about how to explain this to a 13-year-old who would read these words years from now. Your great-grandfather wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He worked as a mechanic, fixing cars for ordinary people in a small town in North Carolina. But he understood something that most people never learn. The measure of a man isn't what he accomplishes. It's how he loves. He loved your grandfather, my dad, Michael Jordan, in a way that changed everything. He gave him permission to be human, to make mistakes, to cry, to fail. And because of that love, your grandfather became not just a great basketball player, but a great man. And your grandfather passed that love down to me. He taught me that being present is more important than being perfect. That vulnerability is strength. That real men show their feelings instead of hiding them. Now, I'm passing that love down to you. James, here's what I want you to know. You're going to make mistakes. Lots of them. You're going to fail at things. You're going to disappoint yourself, and probably disappoint me sometimes too. And all of that is okay. It's part of being human. I won't love you less when you fail. I won't be disappointed in you when you make mistakes. I'll just love you through it, the way my father loved me, the way his father loved him. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the best at everything. You don't have to carry the weight of our family name like it's a burden. You just have to be you, honest, real, present. Isaiah stopped writing and looked up at the wall where a photo hung. The same photo that had sat on his nightstand for years. James Jordan holding baby Michael, both smiling at the camera. He thought about the letter his grandfather had written, the unfinished sentences, and the wisdom cut short by death. He thought about his father reading that letter at age 45, finally understanding what it meant to be vulnerable. He thought about the promise, the sacred promise to be present, to be real, to pass down love without conditions. And he kept writing. There's something else I need to tell you, James. Something I learned from your great-grandfather through his letters. Life is short. We don't always get to say everything we want to say. We don't always get tomorrow. Your great-grandfather was writing my dad, a letter when he died. He ran out of time. The letter just stops mid-sentence, incomplete, unfinished. And you know what? That incompleteness taught us something important. We can't wait to tell the people we love how much they mean to us. And we can't wait for the perfect moment or the right words. We have to say it now, today, this moment. So I'm saying it to you now, even though you're only 3 days old and can't understand these words yet. I love you, James. I'm proud of you. You are enough, exactly as you are. And I'm saying it to you at 13, reading this letter. I still love you. I'm still proud of you. You are still enough. And I'll be saying it to you at 23, 33, 43. I love you. I'm proud of you. You are enough. That will never change, no matter what. Isaiah wiped his eyes, smiling through his tears. Now, here's what I want you to do on your 13th birthday. Go to your great-grandfather's grave with me. Stand where 4 generations of Jordan men have stood before you. Read this letter out loud so he can hear it, wherever he is. Then, I want you to hold the basketball. You know the one, the old worn leather ball that's been passed down through our family. The one your great-grandfather gave to your grandfather in 1978. The one your grandfather gave to me when I turned 13. The one I'll give to you today. Hold it and feel the weight of it. Not the physical weight, though it is heavy, but the weight of history. The weight of love passed down through generations. That basketball represents everything important about our family. We show up. We stay present. We love honestly. We pass down what matters. And then, James, I want you to make me a promise. Not a promise to be perfect. Not a promise to accomplish great things. Not a promise to make me proud. I want you to promise that you'll pass this down. That you'll teach your own children someday what I'm teaching you. That you'll let them see your whole self. The strong parts and the scared parts. The victories and the failures. The joy and the grief. Promise me you'll be present with them. That you'll cry in front of them when you need to cry. That you'll admit when you're wrong. That you'll love them not for what they do, but for who they are. Promise me you'll break the old cycles and keep the good ones going. That's the legacy, son. Not championships or fame or money. Just love, honest, vulnerable, imperfect love passed down through generations, forever. Your great-grandfather started it. Your grandfather continued it. I'm continuing it now. And one day, you'll continue it too. That's the promise we keep, generation after generation. I love you, James. I can't wait to meet the man you'll become. But I already love the baby you are right now, sleeping upstairs, completely unaware of how much joy you've brought into our lives. Welcome to the family, son. Welcome to the legacy. Welcome to a love that will never end. Dad, P.S. Your grandfather wants to add something. Isaiah set down his pen and walked upstairs. He found Michael in the nursery, sitting in the rocking chair with baby James in his arms. Dad, Isaiah whispered, I finished my letter. I want you to add something to it. Your own words for your grandson. Michael looked up, surprised. Really? Really? I'm giving James the letter on his 13th birthday. But I want him to hear from you too. I want him to know all 3 of us, you, me, and Grandpa, are speaking to him. Michael's eyes filled with tears. I'd be honored. 20 minutes later, Michael sat at Isaiah's desk, the letter in front of him. He picked up the pen and added his words below Isaiah's. James, this is your grandfather writing to you now. By the time you read this, I'll be 72 years old. Hard to believe. I still feel like that scared kid who won his first championship, wondering if his father was proud of him. Your father just showed me his letter to you, and it's beautiful. He learned the lessons better than I did. He understood them younger than I did. And that makes me prouder than any trophy ever did. Here's what I want to add. I spent most of my life trying to be perfect. I thought that's what strength looked like. I thought that's what being a man meant. But your great-grandfather taught me different. And it took me 45 years to really understand it. Real strength is admitting you don't have all the answers. Real strength is asking for help. Real strength is crying when you're sad, and laughing when you're happy, and showing people who you really are. I wish I had learned that when I was your age. I wish I had understood that being vulnerable wasn't weakness. But I'm grateful I learned it eventually. Because it changed everything. It changed my relationship with your father. It changed how I see myself. It changed what I believe matters in life. And now, you get to learn it young. You get to grow up knowing that you don't have to be perfect. That you don't have to hide your feelings. That being human is enough. What a gift that is, James. What a precious gift. My father, your great-grandfather, gave me that gift through his letters. I'm giving it to your father. Your father is giving it to you. Don't waste it. Don't forget it. Don't let the world convince you that strength means never showing weakness. Be brave enough to be real. That's the legacy. That's the promise. I love you, grandson. I'm already proud of you. And I can't wait to see what kind of man you become when you're raised, knowing from day one that you are loved completely and unconditionally. Grandpa Michael set down the pen and carefully folded the letter. He placed it in an envelope and wrote on the outside, "To James Raymond Jordan on his 13th birthday." He sealed it and handed it to Isaiah. "Guard this with your life," Michael said. "This letter is his inheritance, more valuable than money or property. This is what really matters." "I will, Dad, and I promise." They stood together in Isaiah's office, 3 generations connected by words on paper. Words of love, words of wisdom, words of permission to be imperfectly human. Upstairs, baby James slept peacefully, unaware that his entire future had just been shaped by the love of men he'd never meet, and the lessons they'd learned through pain and time and grace. That afternoon, the whole family gathered at Isaiah and Elena's house to meet the baby. Grandma Dolores, now 87 years old but still sharp and strong, held baby James in her arms with tears streaming down her face. "He looks just like my James," she whispered. "Same eyes, same chin. It's like having a piece of him back." Uncle Larry and Uncle James Jr. stood nearby with their own children and grandchildren. Marcus, Isaiah's friend from childhood, was there too, by now with 3 kids of his own. The house was full of Jordans, 4 generations of them, all gathered to welcome the newest member of the family. Michael stood at the center of it all, looking around at the faces of his family, his mother, his brothers, his nieces and nephews, his son, and now his grandson. This was the legacy, not the trophies in his office, not the championship rings or the Hall of Fame induction. This, family, love, connection. Carmen came up beside him and slipped her hand into his. "You okay?" "Better than okay," Michael said softly. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Your father would be so proud." "I think he is," Michael said, looking at baby James sleeping peacefully in Dolores's arms. "I think he's been proud all along. I just couldn't feel it until I was ready." As evening fell and the family began to leave, Isaiah walked his father to the door. "Dad, wait, I have something for you." Isaiah disappeared into his office and returned carrying the old basketball, the one that had traveled through generations, the one that represented everything important about their family. "I want you to keep this until James turns 13, Isaiah said. "You gave it to me. I want you to give it to him." Michael took the ball, holding it reverently. "You sure?" "I'm sure. It started with Grandpa James. He gave it to you. You gave it to me. You should be the one to give it to James, to complete the circle." Michael looked down at the worn leather, at the scuffs and marks from decades of use. That means I have to stick around for at least 13 more years. Isaiah laughed. You better. James is going to need his grandpa Michael. Michael pulled Isaiah into a tight hug. Thank you, son, for everything. For being patient with me while I figured out how to be a good father. For teaching me what your grandfather tried to teach me years ago. For being the man I always hoped you'd become. I learned from the best, Isaiah said. From both of you. They stood in the doorway, father and son, connected by love and wisdom passed down through generations. I'll see you tomorrow, Michael said, with baby pictures. Lots and lots of baby pictures. Isaiah laughed. I'm counting on it. That night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet, Isaiah stood in the nursery watching his son sleep. Aunt Elena came up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. What are you thinking about? She asked softly. I'm thinking about promises, Isaiah said. About how my great-grandfather made a promise to my dad. And my dad kept it. And now I'm making the same promise to James. What promise? To be present. To be real. To love him without conditions. Isaiah turned to face his wife. To show him my whole self. The strong parts and the weak parts. To let him see me cry. To let him see me fail. To let him know that being human is okay. Elena smiled and touched his face. You're going to be an amazing father. I hope so. I'm terrified I'll mess up. You will mess up, Elena said matter-of-factly. All parents do. But you'll also apologize when you mess up. You'll learn. You'll grow. And you'll teach James that making mistakes is part of being human. Isaiah looked back at his sleeping son. My grandfather ran out of time to finish his letter. He had more to say, but he died before he could say it. So I'm not waiting. I'm saying everything now. I'm writing it down. I'm making sure James knows he's loved. From day one, no matter what. That's the best gift you could give him, Elena said. They stood together in the quiet nursery, watching their son breathe, watching his tiny chest rise and fall, watching him live his life one breath at a time. And Isaiah understood something profound. This was it. This was the meaning of life. Not accomplishments or achievements or recognition. Just this. Just love. Just showing up. Just being present. Just passing down what matters, generation after generation, forever. 13 years would pass before baby James would stand at his great-grandfather's grave and learn about the promise. 13 years before, he'd hold the old basketball and feel the weight of history in his hands. 13 years before, he'd read the letter and understand that he came from a line of men who learned, slowly and imperfectly, how to love well. But even now, as a 3-day-old baby sleeping peacefully in his crib, James was already part of the legacy. Already loved completely. Already enough. Because some promises don't wait for birthdays or special occasions. Some promises begin the moment a child is born and continue every single day after that. The promise to be present. The promise to be honest. The promise to love without conditions. That was the promise James Raymond Jordan had made to Michael, and that Michael had made to Isaiah. That Isaiah was making to James, generation after generation, forever. And in a quiet cemetery in North Carolina, beneath a simple gray headstone, James Raymond Jordan rested peacefully, his work done, his love still flowing through his descendants like a river that would never run dry. The promise had been kept. The legacy was alive. And love, honest, vulnerable, imperfect love, would continue to be passed down from father to son, from grandfather to grandson, from one generation to the next, forever and ever and ever. That was the real championship. That was the real victory. That was everything that mattered, and it always would be. 13 years later, James Raymond Jordan stood in front of his great-grandfather's grave, his hands trembling as he held a yellowed envelope. And he was 13 years old today, tall for his age, with his great-grandfather's chin and his grandfather's eyes. He wore jeans and a Bulls t-shirt, and in his backpack was the old basketball that had been passed down through 4 generations. Beside him stood his father Isaiah, now 41. Next to Isaiah was Grandpa Michael, 69 years old, but still strong, still present. And completing the circle was Great-Grandma Dolores, 100 years old, in a wheelchair but insisting on being here for this moment. James's mother, Elena, stood slightly back, giving the men their space but present as a witness to this sacred tradition. The October morning was cool and crisp. Leaves crunched beneath their feet. The cemetery was quiet, except for birds singing in the distant trees. James stared at the envelope in his hands, and his name was written across it in his father's handwriting, "To James Raymond Jordan, on his 13th birthday." He'd known about this letter his entire life. His father had told him about the tradition, about how Great-Grandpa James had written a letter to Grandpa Michael, about how that letter had changed everything, about how his own father had written him a letter when he was born. But knowing about it and actually opening it were 2 different things. "I'm nervous," James admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "What if it says I'm supposed to be something I'm not?" Isaiah knelt down so he was eye level with his son. "James, that letter tells you exactly the opposite. It tells you that you're enough, exactly as you are." "How do you know?" "Because I wrote it. And because I learned from my father, who learned from his father, and that the only thing that matters is loving you for who you are, not who we want you to be." Michael stepped forward and placed his hand on James's shoulder. "Your great-grandfather, the man you're named after, he started something in our family. He gave us permission to be human, to be imperfect, to show our feelings instead of hiding them. That's what this letter is about. That's what it's always been about." Dolores spoke up from her wheelchair, her voice still strong despite her age. "Baby, I've lived 100 years. I've seen 5 generations of Jordans now. And the best thing we ever did as a family was learn to be real with each other. That's what my husband taught us. That's what this letter will tell you." James looked at the gravestone, at his great-grandfather's name carved in stone. Not a man he'd never met, but who'd shaped his entire life. "Okay," James said, taking a deep breath. "I'm ready." He carefully opened the envelope and pulled out several pages. The first page was in his father's handwriting. The second page had different handwriting. His grandfather's, James realized. And at the bottom of the second page, in shaky but deliberate writing, was a 3rd edition. James recognized it from the birthday cards she sent him. Great-Grandma Dolores's handwriting. His whole family had written to him. James began to read aloud, his young voice carrying across the quiet cemetery. He read his father's words about being loved unconditionally, about not having to be perfect, about the basketball and what it represented. His voice shook when he read the part about Great-Grandpa James running out of time to finish his letter. He paused when he got to his grandfather's edition, looking up at Michael with tears in his eyes. "You really felt that way, Grandpa? You really thought you had to be perfect?" Michael's own eyes were wet. "For most of my life, yes. It took me a long time to learn what your father learned young, that being real is more important than being perfect." James continued reading, absorbing his grandfather's words about vulnerability being strength, about not wasting the gift of knowing you're loved. Then he reached the final page, the one he hadn't expected. James, this is your great-grandma Dolores writing to you now. I'm adding this to your letter today, on the morning of your 13th birthday, sitting at my kitchen table at 5 a.m., because old people don't sleep much anymore. I want to tell you about your great-grandfather, my husband, the man whose name you carry. James Raymond Jordan was the love of my life. We were married for 32 years before he was taken from us. And in those 32 years, I learned what real love looks like. It's not perfect. It's not always easy. But it's honest. Your great-grandfather wasn't a perfect man. He left his socks on the floor. He snored so loud I had to wear earplugs. He burned every meal he tried to cook. He sang off-key and told terrible jokes, and sometimes forgot our anniversary. But he was present. He was kind. He was gentle. And he loved our children, including your grandfather, with a love so deep it's still rippling out through our family 3 decades after his death. You know what his secret was? He wasn't afraid to be himself. He cried at movies. He admitted when he was wrong. He asked for help when he needed it. He showed our boys that real men have feelings, and that's okay. That's the greatest gift he gave us, permission to be human. And now, baby, I'm 100 years old. I've lived through a century of changes. I've seen technologies invented that would have seemed like magic when I was young. I've watched the world transform in ways I never imagined. But you know what hasn't changed? What's still the same as it was when I was 13? Same as when your great-grandfather was 13. Same as it will be when your great-grandchildren are 13. Love. Real, honest, present love. That's the only thing that lasts. That's the only thing that matters. So here's what I want you to know, James. You come from a long line of people who learned how to love well. Not perfectly. None of us loved perfectly. But we loved honestly. We loved bravely. And we loved through the hard times and the good times. And now it's your turn to carry that forward. One day, I'll be gone. Your grandfather will be gone. Even your father will be gone. But the love we're giving you today, this love will outlive all of us. You'll pass it down to your children. They'll pass it down to theirs. And on it goes. Forever. That's immortality, baby. Not living forever in your own body, but living forever through the love you gave, the lessons you taught, the presents you offered. Your great-grandfather is still alive in every hug your grandfather gives you, in every honest conversation your father has with you, in every moment we choose to be real instead of perfect. He's still alive in you, James, in your kindness, in your gentleness, in the way you inherited his name and his legacy. And keep him alive by being the kind of man he was, present, honest, loving. That's all we ask. That's all he would have asked. Just love well. Just show up. Just be real. The rest will take care of itself. I love you, baby boy. I probably won't be here for your 20th birthday or your 30th. But I'm here now. And I want you to know that watching you grow up has been one of the great joys of my long life. You are exactly who you're supposed to be. Don't ever forget that. Great-Grandma Dolores. By the time James finished reading, everyone was crying. Even Elena, who'd tried to stay composed for the photos she was taking. James carefully folded the letter and looked up at his great-grandmother in her wheelchair. "You wrote this today? This morning?" "I did," Dolores said with a smile. "Couldn't sleep, and kept thinking about what I wanted to tell you. So I got up and wrote it down." James walked over to her and knelt beside her wheelchair. "Thank you, Great-Grandma. Thank you for being here. Thank you for remembering Great-Grandpa James for all of us." Dolores cupped his face in her wrinkled hands. "Oh, baby, how could I forget? He gave me 5 beautiful children, including your grandfather. He gave me a lifetime of memories. He taught me what love looks like." She pulled James close and kissed his forehead. "And now I see him in you. Every single day." Isaiah reached into his backpack and pulled out the old basketball, the one that had started this whole tradition 47 years ago. "James," Isaiah said, his voice thick with emotion, "this basketball has been passed down through 4 generations now, and from Great-Grandpa James to Grandpa Michael in 1978, from Grandpa Michael to me in 2010, and now, from me to you." He held it out, and James took it with both hands, feeling its weight. "It's heavier than I thought," James said. "That's because it carries history," Michael explained. "Every scuff mark, every scratch, those are memories. That's your great-grandfather teaching me to shoot. That's me teaching your father to dribble. That's your father teaching you to pass. And one day," Isaiah added, "you'll teach your own children with this ball. You'll pass it down to them, and you'll tell them the same things we're telling you today." James held the ball close to his chest. "What if I mess up? What if I'm not a good enough father when I grow up?" "You'll mess up," Isaiah said honestly. "All fathers do. But you'll also apologize when you mess up. You'll learn, you'll grow, and you'll teach your children that making mistakes is part of being human." Michael stepped forward. "James, I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me when I was your age." "What, Grandpa?" "You don't have to be Michael Jordan. You don't have to be a champion. You don't have to accomplish anything extraordinary. You just have to be you, kind, thoughtful, genuine you. And that will always be enough." James looked up at his grandfather with wide eyes. "Really? Really?" Michael pulled him into a hug. "I spent most of my life thinking I had to be perfect. It made me miserable. It made me push people away. Don't make my mistake. Be yourself from the start." Isaiah joined the hug, wrapping his arms around both of them. "3 generations," he said softly. "To 3 generations of Jordan men, all learning the same lesson at different times. Love is more important than perfection." They stood like that for a long moment, grandfather, father, and son, connected by love and wisdom passed down through time. Finally, they separated, and James turned to the gravestone. He knelt down and placed the basketball at the base, just like his grandfather had done 47 years ago, just like his father had done 24 years ago. "Great-Grandpa James," James said softly, "I never got to meet you, but I feel like I know you, because of your letters, because of the love you gave Grandpa Michael, because of everything you taught our family." His voice got stronger. "I promise I'll keep your legacy alive. I promise I'll be present. I promise I'll be honest. I promise I'll love my family the way you loved yours." He touched the gravestone with one hand, the basketball with the other. "Thank you for starting this. Thank you for teaching us what matters. Thank you for being brave enough to write those letters, even though you didn't know if anyone would understand them." The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, and for a moment, just a moment, it felt like James Raymond Jordan was there with them, proud and present, and continuing to teach even from beyond the grave. Elena stepped forward with her camera. "Can I get a picture? All 4 generations?" They arranged themselves around the gravestone, Dolores in her wheelchair in the center, Michael and Isaiah standing on either side, and young James kneeling in front, his hand still on the basketball. 4 generations of Jordans, connected by blood and love and lessons learned through time. Elena took the photo, and somehow everyone knew. This image would be passed down too, added to the collection of family photos that told the story of who they were and what they valued. Not championships or trophies, just presence, just honesty, just love. As they prepared to leave the cemetery, James lingered behind for a moment. Isaiah noticed and walked back to join him. "You okay, son?" "Yeah," James said. I wanted to say one more thing to him, privately." "Take your time." Isaiah stepped away, giving his son space. James knelt by the gravestone one more time and whispered, "Great-Grandpa, I know I'm named after you, and I know that's a big responsibility. But Dad says I don't have to be anyone except myself. So I promise I'll be the best version of James Jordan I can be. Not you, not Grandpa, not Dad, just me. But I'll remember everything you taught us. I promise." He stood up and rejoined his family, feeling lighter somehow, like he'd just set down a weight he didn't know he'd been carrying. They walked back to the cars together, 4 generations of Jordans plus Elena, all connected by an invisible thread of love that had been woven through decades. As they drove away, James looked back at the cemetery one last time. The basketball sat at the gravestone, an offering, a symbol, a promise kept. And somewhere beyond the veil between life and death, James Raymond Jordan smiled, proud of his grandson, proud of his great-grandson, proud of his great-great-grandson, proud of the legacy of love he'd started almost 50 years ago. And the promise had been kept, again and again and again, generation after generation, forever. That night, at dinner with the whole family gathered around the table, Dolores raised her glass of water. "I want to make a toast," she said, her voice still strong at 100 years old. Everyone lifted their glasses, water, juice, wine, waiting. "To James," Dolores said, looking at her great-grandson, "the newest keeper of the promise. May you love well, show up honestly, and pass down what matters to the next generation." "To James," everyone echoed. Young James felt his face flush with emotion. "Can I say something?" "Of course, baby," Dolores said. James stood up, suddenly feeling very young but also very certain of what he wanted to say. "I want to make a promise, right here, in front of all of you. And I promise that when I grow up and have kids, I'll bring them to Great-Grandpa's grave. I'll tell them the stories. I'll give them the basketball. And I'll teach them what he taught all of you, that being real is more important than being perfect." He looked around the table at his family, his parents, his grandfather, his great-grandmother, his aunts and uncles and cousins. "I promise I'll keep the legacy alive. I promise I won't let Great-Grandpa be forgotten. I promise I'll pass down the love." Michael stood up and walked around the table to his grandson. He placed both hands on James's shoulders and looked him in the eye. "Your great-grandfather would be so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And 30 years from now, when you're standing at that grave with your own son, you'll understand just how much this moment means." He pulled James into a hug, and soon everyone at the table was standing, joining the embrace, 4 generations of Jordans, plus 1 Jordan by marriage, all connected by love, all committed to the same promise: to be present, to be honest, to love without conditions. That was the legacy. That was the promise. And it would continue, generation after generation, forever. Because some things, the truly important things, never die. They just keep getting passed down, like an old basketball with worn leather and scuffed surfaces, carrying the marks of everyone who's held it, everyone who's learned from it, everyone who's used it to teach the next generation what really matters. Love, always love, generation after generation, forever. So where are you listening from? You to drop your country or city in the comments below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread kindness and powerful stories that remind us what truly matters in life. And don't go anywhere yet. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible story that will inspire you. Thank you for watching, and remember, being present is always better than being perfect. See you in the next one.